Chapter 1443 Solid Ground, Useless Skeleton King. Lin Moyu disappeared into the vortex. As he entered, a massive suction force pulled him deeper into the vortex. Throughout the process, his senses were obscured. He couldn't discern direction, distance, or speed, and it seemed as if even time had stopped. Lin Moyu silently counted in his mind, trying to gauge how much time had passed and how far he had traveled. However, under the interference of an invisible force, time seemed to become chaotic, and his thoughts also experienced interruptions and pauses, rendering his counting useless. Most of his senses were blocked, but with his peak fourth-grade soul, he could still perceive some anomalies. Lin Moyu felt as if he had passed through multiple layers of membranes, and the surrounding atmosphere seemed to change, becoming different from the battlefield and the great world.
I've left the battlefield and am no longer in the great world.
Lin Moyu thought to himself. This feeling was different from when he entered the Yellow Sand Desert. Both the Yellow Sand Desert and the ancient tomb had their own rules, but they were somewhat connected to the battlefield and the great world. However, now, Lin Moyu couldn't sense any connection to the battlefield or the great world, leading him to conclude that he had entered an independent world. After an unknown amount of time, he finally felt solid ground beneath his feet. It was like a long teleportation had ended, and the scene before his eyes rippled like water, gradually becoming clear. His vision returned to normal after 2 seconds. This was a dim world, with dark clouds covering the sky. Occasionally, light would break through, bringing some brightness to the world. The light filtering through the clouds was tinged with deep red, as if a raging fire was burning behind the thick clouds. However, the surroundings were cold, lacking the warmth that flames should bring. Lin Moyu instinctively wanted to fly up and take a look, but a powerful force rose from the ground, holding him firmly. Lin Moyu exerted his strength, his body glowing with golden light, trying to break free from the force. In the struggle, Lin Moyu gained the upper hand, and his body slowly ascended. But when he reached a height of 100 meters, the suction force from the ground suddenly intensified, preventing him from rising further. He was still far from the clouds. Lin Moyu tried several times with the same result and had to land. He then leaped with all his might, his body shooting up like a cannonball, instantly surpassing 100 meters. At 200 meters, the ground's pull strengthened again, but it still couldn't stop Lin Moyu. It wasn't until he reached 300 meters that the pull became much stronger, and he had to fall back to the ground. He jumped up like a cannonball and fell like a meteor, but the ground showed no signs of damage. If it were an ordinary star, the ground would have cracked, and the star might have even collapsed. For a god king, shattering a star with a punch is not difficult. Next, gray flames burned fiercely, and a massive skeleton king throne appeared in the sky. Before the skeleton king could stand up from the throne, an invisible force pressed down on him. The skeleton king was too tall, about 100,000 meters high, and just standing there, he surpassed the cloud layer. The force came from the ground, as if countless hands were pulling the skeleton king down. The skeleton king was suppressed to the ground. At the minor god sovereign level, the skeleton king was clearly stronger than Lin Moyu. He resisted the ground's pull with all his might, managing to lift his head, but only to a height of about 1,000 meters before he couldn't move further. A height of 1,000 meters was the skeleton king's limit. The more he lowered his head, the less the pull. After some attempts, Lin Moyu realized that the pull increased sharply every 100 meters. Within each 100-meter interval, the pull remained constant. At his level, he could only fly to about 100 meters. For a second-stage god king, even 100 meters would be impossible. A first-stage god king would be stuck on the ground, unable to take off. With his god king body, he could jump to about 300 meters. The closer to the limit, the more the pull affected his movements, slowing him down and reducing his combat power. In the area below 100 meters, he could exert his full strength. The skeleton king, being too tall, could only lie on the ground. If he tried to stand, his body might collapse under the pull. Looking at the sky, Lin Moyu seemed to see layers of invisible membranes covering the world.
It seems that the way out is not by flying up.
He murmured. He had tried to find a way out, leaving himself a retreat. Clearly, the way out was not by ascending but through another path. After a brief test, he confirmed that this place had similarities and differences with the Yellow Sand Desert and the ancient tomb. The similarity was the ancient aura, having endured countless ages, likely related to ancient times. The difference was the complete absence of the great world's aura, indicating it was an independent world. The laws here were extremely thin, and using them would greatly deplete one's energy, making it hard to replenish. However, this didn't matter to Lin Moyu, as his talent tree was the largest supply warehouse. With a thought, the Skeleton King, now useless, raised his bone sword and struck the ground with all his might. Although he didn't use any spells and his posture was off, limiting his power, the Skeleton King's strike was still stronger than a full-force attack from a 9th stage God King. The ground trembled slightly, and a small crack appeared, only finger width, less than a meter long, and about 10 centimeters deep. The Skeleton King's strike, capable of shattering 830 stars, only left a small crack on the ground. The Skeleton King's power wasn't limited. The ground was just too solid. Lin Moyu felt the ground's solidity, comparable to God's sovereign materials, second only to the black materials in the ancient tomb and the mysterious manor.
Judging by the ground's strength, the beings here must be very powerful. Similarly, if there are curses here, they will be very strong. I wonder if my passive spell can withstand them.
Lin Moyu knew that while his passive spell was miraculous, it had its limits. If the attack was too strong, it would lose its effect. He put away the useless Skeleton King and summoned a large number of skeleton god warriors. Here, the Skeleton King was useless, though it could still be summoned to suppress enemies with its massive body if needed. Over 1 million skeleton god warriors spread out, with Lin Moyu at the center, moving in all directions. In an unknown place, Lin Moyu used the oldest and most practical method, having the skeletons scout the way. The Lightspeed Lich sat on Lin Moyu's shoulder, providing spell support to the skeleton god warriors. The warriors turned into streams of light, but their speed was much slower than in the Great World. Here, the Lightspeed Lich's ability was greatly suppressed, its speed only 1% of normal. 1444, 1444. Chapter 1444. Almost got myself killed. The skeletons ran farther and farther, and a map had already formed in Lin Moyu's mind. The mystery of this land began to gradually unveil. The Lightspeed Lich's abilities were restricted, and Lin Moyu quickly understood why. The Lich's abilities depended on laws, and the Lightspeed Lich naturally depended on the laws of Lightspeed. In this world, the presence of laws was extremely thin. Although not completely absent, it was much less than in the Great World. Not only was it difficult to replenish, but even the effects were greatly diminished. The skeletons used their light transformation ability, indeed turning into streams of light, but their speed was only 1% of usual. They could only travel 1,500 kilometers per second. Lin Moyu could only hope that this world wasn't too large. Otherwise, 1,500 kilometers per second, which seemed fast, would be like a drop in the bucket. He was already accustomed to the distance scales in the Great World, where distances of tens of millions or even billions of kilometers were common, sometimes even measured in light years. In this context, 1,500 kilometers per second was like a snail's pace. The world was dim, the ground solid and flat, looking like a vast plain. There was no vegetation, and it seemed devoid of any life. In his undead vision, Lin Moyu saw no soul flames. After half an hour, the skeletons had traveled nearly 3 million kilometers. Lin Moyu finally saw something else. It was a giant flower bud about 50 meters tall, not yet in bloom, seemingly dead. The huge leaves were withered, and no soul flames were visible in the undead vision. The undead vision only showed shades of gray and white, so the true color of the flower bud was not visible. After half an hour, Lin Moyu reached the flower bud and examined it closely. The flower bud was blood red, a stunning color. Lin Moyu felt the traces of time from it. Even though it was dead, it still retained its vibrant color, unchanged for countless ages. The flower bud's roots penetrated deep into the ground, proving its extraordinary nature by being able to take root in such solid ground.
It was about to bloom but suddenly met its death. I wonder what level this flower bud is.
Lin Moyu didn't need to guess blindly. He flicked a wisp of undead flame from his finger. The undead flame landed on the flower bud and began to burn fiercely. On the solid, desolate ground, a 50-meter-tall gray flame appeared. Suddenly, the wind picked up, whistling and blowing on the undead flame, stretching it into long, thin lines. The flower bud began to move, its soul starting to revive. It stretched in the flame, slowly retracting, wrapping itself tighter. What was happening now was what it was doing before it died. Lin Moyu realized his judgment was wrong. The flower bud was not about to bloom but was retracting. It had been attacked before it could fully retract, and its soul was obliterated. In the undead vision, a massive soul flame appeared, growing stronger and quickly reaching the God King realm, then breaking through to the God Sovereign realm.
This flower was at the God Sovereign realm when it was alive.
Lin Moyu was shocked, confirming his earlier suspicion. He had initially guessed that the creatures here would be very strong, but he didn't expect them to be this strong. A random flower was at the God Sovereign realm. Then his expression changed completely. The flower's soul continued to grow stronger, showing no signs of stopping. The soul flame began to enter the high-level God Sovereign range, still growing stronger. Lin Moyu had seen Zhu Qiwu's soul flame and knew what the soul flame of a peak God Sovereign looked like. Now, this unknown flower's soul had reached the same level as Zhu Qiwu's, but it didn't stop growing, showing no signs of halting. A warning came from his soul, and Lin Moyu sensed something was wrong. Instinctively, he retreated, moving back tens of thousands of kilometers. The soul flame suddenly expanded, officially breaking through the God Sovereign realm's limit. A touch of stunning purple light appeared in the originally golden soul flame, exuding a noble and mysterious aura. Lin Moyu's eyes were filled with shock.
It's not at the God Sovereign realm, it's at the other shore.
A flower had reached the other shore, making the strength of this world unimaginable. The flower bud revived but did not bow before Lin Moyu. On the surface, it was because it was a flower and couldn't bow. But Lin Moyu, as the person involved, didn't feel that way. He sensed that the flower's soul will was resisting the resurrection spell. It didn't want to bow. How could a being that had reached the other shore bow before a god king? This was the first time Lin Moyu encountered such a situation, making him vigilant. He discovered the limit of the resurrection of the dead spell. Every spell has its limits, and the limit of resurrection of the dead should be the God Sovereign realm. Reviving and controlling a God Sovereign was not a problem, but reviving a being above the God Sovereign realm was difficult. Such a being's will was too strong to be easily controlled. The flower bud was the best example. The more it resisted the spell, the more intense the confrontation became. Lin Moyu suddenly felt himself being locked onto, a malicious intent enveloping his soul. The flower bud, while resisting the spell, also locked onto him.
It wants to kill me.
The undead wings instinctively spread, instantly breaking the soul lock, and he turned into a stream of light, retreating. Just as he retreated less than 1,000 kilometers, a deep blue light suddenly shone above his head. Lin Moyu felt his whole body sink, his soul buzzing, his thoughts becoming chaotic, and he lost all perception of his surroundings. A sense of loneliness erupted from the depths of his soul, making him feel hopeless and suicidal. This emotion came from deep within his soul, uncontrollable and irresistible.
No way, this isn't my true thought. Control, I must control it.
Fortunately, this emotion lasted less than half a second before disappearing like a bubble. Lin Moyu broke free from the loneliness and despair, his thoughts returning to normal, his face pale, and his body weak, gasping for breath. He knew it was the state immunity spell that saved him. But facing a curse attack beyond the God Sovereign realm, state immunity couldn't provide complete immunity. At least for that half second, he had countless suicidal thoughts. Fortunately, his soul quality was high enough and his defense strong enough. Otherwise, he would have self-destructed at least once. His talent could save him, but it was still dangerous. If the curse had lasted more than 3 seconds, he might have been in real danger. 3 seconds was enough for him to self-destruct 3 times, and his talent wouldn't help. At this moment, a sharp cry suddenly sounded in his ears. The flower bud, which was resisting the resurrection of the dead spell, suddenly trembled all over. Then it exploded like fireworks, shattering into pieces. From the roots to the petals, everything turned to dust, dissipating into the air. Resurrection of the dead had turned the flower bud into a resurrected being but couldn't control it. In the intense confrontation, its soul completely collapsed, and it died completely. Lin Moyu breathed a sigh of relief.
That was really dangerous.
He smiled bitterly.
I almost got myself killed.
If he had really died just now, it would have been by his own hand. Killing oneself would indeed be a bit funny to talk about. 1445 Chapter 1445 The Steel in the Basin. The curse was strong, leaving Lin Moyu with lingering fear. However, Lin Moyu also knew that his state immunity was indeed effective against curses. As long as he was careful, he would be fine. He hadn't expected the opponent's realm to be so high. It was truly a lapse in judgment.
Still not cautious enough. Need to be more careful in the future.
Lin Moyu warned himself as he walked back to the flower bud. The flower bud had already turned to dust, disappearing into the world, leaving no trace behind. In the place where it once existed, a giant pit appeared. Lin Moyu approached the edge of the pit and looked down. It was pitch black inside, and he couldn't see anything. Suddenly, his soul alarmed him, and Lin Moyu quickly retreated 2 steps. At that moment, a massive pulling force surged from the pit. If Lin Moyu had been standing in the pit, he would have been pulled down.
What is this force? Could there be other beings in the pit?
Lin Moyu's heart tightened. He realized that if he fell in, it wouldn't be good. With a thought, 100 skeleton god warriors rushed out, leaping into the pit. Lin Moyu had already connected to the undead vision of the skeleton god warriors to see where they would end up. As the skeleton god warriors entered, the massive pulling force reappeared, like giant hands firmly grabbing the skeleton god warriors. The skeleton god warriors couldn't resist and were carried away by the force. The world was pitch black, but fortunately with the undead vision, they could still see some things. Lin Moyu saw a giant vortex, identical to the one he had entered. The pulling force originated from the vortex, dragging the skeleton god warriors into it. The skeleton god warriors were like small boats in a storm, swaying with the wind. Unlike the vortex he had entered, this vortex contained things. Countless meteor-like objects flew around in the vortex, resembling the materials of the ground. Driven by the vortex's force, these objects moved at high speed, like cannonballs. The skeleton god warriors constantly endured impacts, resulting in numerous wounds on their bodies. Fortunately, the skeleton god warriors were strong enough, and these wounds weren't enough to make them collapse. After spinning in the vortex for several minutes, they finally reached the deepest part of the vortex. Then, the skeleton god warriors were thrown out like garbage. At the moment they left the vortex, Lin Moyu sensed a familiar aura. Immediately, his connection with the skeleton god warriors was severed, and they lost contact, unable to sense each other.
It's the aura of the great world. Through the vortex, they returned to the great world.
At the moment the skeleton god warriors left the vortex, Lin Moyu clearly sensed the aura of the great world. He was 100% sure that through the vortex one could leave here and return to the great world. Lin Moyu had an epiphany.
So this is the way to return to the great world. It seems there should be many similar passages. Indeed, these are 2 different worlds, even isolating my connection with the skeletons.
Having found a way back, Lin Moyu felt reassured. The skeletons he had sent out were still running on the ground and soon discovered something different. Lin Moyu immediately rushed over and saw a basin. The basin had a diameter of about 10,000 meters and a depth of about 100 meters. In the basin, there were numerous large pits. Lin Moyu recognized at a glance that these pits were left by the death of plants, also serving as exits from this world. So far, Lin Moyu had only encountered one life-threatening crisis, which he brought upon himself. He hadn't encountered any other dangers. For another cultivator, they probably wouldn't encounter danger either. Therefore, most cultivators here returned safely but didn't bring back any useful information. However, to truly understand the secrets of this world, one had to trigger the curse. But how to trigger the curse? Lin Moyu searched the basin with his eyes and suddenly saw a stele in an inconspicuous corner. The stele was pitch black, different from the color of the ground.
This material. Indeed from ancient times.
Lin Moyu recognized at a glance that the stele's material was the same as that of the mysterious manor fortress. He took 2 steps and arrived at the stele. The stele had inscriptions, written in the ancient primordial script, similar to the ancient script of his previous life. In this era, few people could recognize the primordial script. People like Little Ming King Bodhisattva and Su Qingyang, whom he had saved, couldn't recognize it. However, Zhu Qiwu and that mysterious figure could. Lin Moyu speculated that the primordial script was only circulated among the upper echelons of various races, perhaps only known to powerful races. The inscriptions on the stele were originally numerous, but now most had been erased, leaving only fragments.
Turo rebellion, I led the army to suppress. No matter how strong the curse, it can't stop the master's glory. Heaven despicable. I led the army, slaughtered Turo.
These were fragmented records, but they provided enough information to analyze. Seeing the word
Turo.
Lin Moyu suddenly remembered information he had seen in a beast-skin journal. The journal had written,
In the year 998 of the Undying Era, your glory shone upon Turo.
Connecting the dots, he could roughly deduce the cause and effect. In the year 998 of the Undying Era, this master ruled over all of Turul. It was unclear whether Turul was a mid-level race or an independent world at that time. In the following years, a dozen more races or worlds were successively ruled. Then, in an unprecedented war, these beings, unwilling to be ruled, rebelled. As a result, Turul was slaughtered.
So, Area 9 to 58 was once the territory of the Turul. Turul was originally a plant-based life form, skilled in curses. Ancient things are indeed interesting.
Races skilled in curses exist in the great world, but they are all weak. Unexpectedly, the Turul took curses to such an extent, surpassing the god-sovereign level. Looking at the remaining pits, one could imagine their size when alive and infer their strength. Not weaker than the flower bud he had seen earlier. That was an existence surpassing the god-sovereign level, and in the former Turul they were everywhere. The strength of ancient times seemed to far surpass the current era. Lin Moyu felt enlightened. He tried to take the stele away, but it was firmly embedded in the ground, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move it. In the end, he had no choice but to use a memory stone to record the stele's contents. Those big figures were very interested in ancient materials. If he handed this over, he might receive some rewards. After searching the basin, he found nothing else. He checked the pits again, sending dozens of skeletons in to confirm that they could indeed leave this place and return to the great world through the pits. Lin Moyu felt reassured, knowing he wouldn't be trapped here. He left a few skeletons in place as markers, ensuring he wouldn't get lost no matter where he went. Leaving the basin, he turned into a stream of light and flew in another direction. The skeleton god warriors had made new discoveries. 1446 1446. Chapter 1446. The Curse from Billions of Years Ago. The skeleton god warriors discovered another basin, but there was no stele inside this basin. The size, layout, and distribution of holes in this basin were exactly the same as the previous 2 basins. The basins were perfectly circular with a diameter of 10,000 meters. The number and positions of the holes inside were identical, exactly 100 holes with the same size. It was as if these basins were cast from the same mold, with only the steel being the difference. The skeletons then discovered more and more basins. Lin Moyu examined each one and found they were all identical. Lin Moyu guessed,
Could each basin represent a tribe or clan?
but this didn't seem quite right.
The distribution of these basins is too uniform, unlike living areas. It's more like a military formation. If it's a military formation, there should be commanders and leaders.
Lin Moyu compared his findings with the mental map he had formed. He realized that the distribution of these basins was very balanced, forming a grid-like military formation. However, this guess still lacked evidence. Along the way, Lin Moyu felt very safe and did not trigger any curses. He didn't know what those who had triggered the curse had discovered. After all, he had only been here for 2 days. He couldn't be impatient. The skeletons continued exploring in all directions. Except for the direction where the basins appeared, the other directions were completely flat with nothing in sight. The land that once belonged to the Tural tribe was far vaster than Lin Moyu had imagined. The skeletons running in other directions could travel 130 million kilometers per day. But even after running for 2 consecutive days on this plain, the scenery remained unchanged. The scale was completely beyond reason. However, Lin Moyu had a vague feeling that this was just the tip of the iceberg. More and more basins appeared, with tens of thousands already mapped in his mind, arranged in a neat 100 by 100 grid formation. Finally, on the 4th day, there was a new discovery. A 100-meter-tall mountain appeared in front of the tens of thousands of basins. At the moment he saw the mountain, Lin Moyu could finally confirm that these basins were not villages but military camps. On top of this mountain was a strange giant tree. In his undead vision, the sole fire of this tree had been extinguished. Lin Moyu walked up the mountain and turned to face the basins. The mist cleared, and the tens of thousands of basins came into view. He stood high above like a general inspecting his troops. One could imagine that in those basins were once the soldiers of the Tural tribe, fully armed and ready to launch their so-called rebellion. The result was that the rebellion failed, and the tribe was slaughtered instead. Who was right or wrong has long been buried by the river of time and no longer matters. For Lin Moyu, uncovering the truth would not be too difficult. He could revive the strange tree in front of him. But he didn't dare. An existence at such a level could very likely break free from the control of resurrection of the dead, just like the previous flower bud. He got lucky last time, but he might not be so fortunate next time. The risk was too great and not worth taking. This strange tree was 100 meters tall, clearly larger and more powerful than the flower bud he had seen before. There was no need to take such a foolish risk again. He shifted his gaze from the basins to the strange tree in front of him. The surface of the tree was not smooth but had protrusions, as if something was trying to burst out of its body, forming a peculiar pattern. The withered branches drooped down and connected to the ground, covering the earth. Lin Moyu did not touch these branches. Instead, he slowly levitated into the air. The mountain was 100 meters high, so at this height, he was experiencing an immense downward pull. As he flew up, he could only rise half a meter before being unable to ascend further over the mountaintop. However, this did not stop Lin Moyu, as he had many ways to fly over. With a thought, a skeleton god general appeared by his side. The skeleton god general stood 5 meters tall with the combat power of the 9th stage of the God King realm, second only to the skeleton king and the 200 skeleton generals with armies. At the 9th stage of the God King realm, the skeleton god general could easily fly up to 800 meters high. Lin Moyu placed one hand on the skeleton god general's bones, and it slowly rose, carrying Lin Moyu over the mountaintop. At the moment he crossed over, Lin Moyu's pupils constricted sharply. He saw dense vines covering the area behind the mountain. These vines were not drooping branches or roots but part of the tree's body itself. Part of the vines were on the mountain, while most were hidden beneath, intertwined with the roots. The vines extended along the ground for an unknown distance. Lin Moyu realized he had underestimated this strange tree. The part protruding from the mountaintop was merely its head. The entire mountain was its body. Based on the strength of the flower bud, The power of this strange tree must be unimaginable. Immediately after, among the intertwined vines, Lin Moyu saw something different.
Go there.
With a thought, he commanded the skeleton god general to fly down. He approached the vines and saw the object among them clearly. It was a skull, its flesh and blood long dried up, the tight skin clinging to the bones. It was clearly a male skull, with features about 70 to 80% similar to humans. However, the skin was covered in fine scales, indicating it was not human. Lin Moyu pondered for a moment, then signaled the skeleton god general to fly higher and away. He then summoned another skeleton god general to retrieve the skull from the vines. The skeleton god general grabbed the skull and pulled it out with force. Boom! A tremendous roar shook the entire mountain forest. A red light flashed above the skeleton god general's head, forming the shape of a giant axe that slammed down. The skeleton god general was instantly shattered into pieces. Resurrection of the undead automatically triggered, reviving the skeleton god general, only for it to be shattered again. After 5 revivals and deaths, resurrection of the undead lost its effect, and the skeleton god general truly died. It was only then that the skull fell back into the mountain. Lin Moyu watched this scene.
What a terrifying curse.
The strange tree did not revive, but the curse it had set before its death still remained. The curse's power was very strange. Once the curse was set, it could last for an extremely long time. Although its power would gradually weaken over time, if the original strength was great enough, the curse could persist for billions of years. This was exactly the case now. A curse from billions of years ago easily killed the skeleton god general. Moreover, the curse's power persisted. Even after revival, it was useless. Lin Moyu could only give up on this skeleton god general. He summoned a new skeleton god general to retrieve the skull again. This time, it went smoothly without triggering the curse's attack.
As expected, as long as I don't disturb the vines, the curse won't be triggered.
Triggering the curse attack required meeting certain conditions. Disturbing the vines would trigger the curse's attack. If the vines were not disturbed, the curse would not be triggered. It seemed his guess was correct. Looking at the skull in the skeleton god general's hand, Lin Moyu led it away from the mountain, stopping 10,000 meters away. He then unleashed the undead flames on the skull. Stellar level spell. Resurrection of the Dead. 1447, 1447. Chapter 1447. Ancient Information, Another World. The undying flames fell on the skull, burning fiercely. The ancient being, dead for countless years, began to regenerate its flesh under the influence of the spell. Whether it was because the being was too powerful or because it had been dead for too long, the regeneration process was very slow. Lin Moyu watched closely, his mind highly alert. To avoid repeating past mistakes, Lin Moyu made preparations. The undying flames first restored the flesh on the skull, gradually becoming full. Then, the flesh below the neck began to regenerate, writhing and growing in the flames. Lin Moyu observed the newly formed skin, which was also covered in dense scales, resembling humans but not quite the same. Even if it were a human, it would be from an ancient period with little relation to the current human race. Lin Moyu wouldn't show mercy just because of the being's race. To him, these beings were tools to understand the situation. The undying flames burned for 10 minutes, and the being finally regenerated. It stood about 3 meters tall, much taller than Lin Moyu. Its entire body was covered in scales, and it had a snake tail behind it. This was a strange race, unlike any current race. Upon resurrection, the being instinctively wanted to bow before Lin Moyu, but its eyes suddenly flashed with ferocity, and it roared in anger, seemingly resisting. Lin Moyu watched silently, feeling its powerful aura, similar to the flower bud he had encountered earlier. Both were beings that had stepped into the other shore, but this one was slightly weaker than the strange tree, which was why it had died at the hands of the tree. Lin Moyu asked in a low voice,
Who are you?
With his previous experience, Lin Moyu was calm, exerting his authority and strengthening the spell's suppression. The being was resurrected by the spell and would be controlled by it. The first time, Lin Moyu had not encountered such a situation and was caught off guard by the flower bud's curse attack. Now he knew what to do. Strengthen the spell's power and exert his authority as the master. Although this might not necessarily work, it was worth a try. Under the dual suppression of the spell and Lin Moyu's authority, the being's thoughts finally showed signs of submission.
I am 993257.
It reported a long number. Lin Moyu was stunned.
Is this your name? How can it be a number?
He wondered if ancient beings had no names, only numbers. But that didn't make sense. Beings who had reached the other shore should have names. Lin Moyu asked,
What race are you?
After a few moments of hesitation, the being struggled to say,
Undying Serpent Fish Clan. Why are you here?
Lin Moyu pressed on.
Turul's betrayal. We were ordered to suppress it. Who else came with you? The Master's personal guard, the 10th Legion. We were responsible for exterminating the Turul during the rebellion.
Lin Moyu was shocked, his eyes gleaming.
Turul is not just a race. It is both a race and a world. Explain clearly. The Turul race ruled the world, exterminating all other races. Our Serpent Fish clan originally belonged to the Turul world, but later.
At this point, the being's eyes suddenly turned blood red, and its voice stopped. Its eyes quickly became crazed, as if losing sanity.
You are not the master. You have no right to command me. How dare you control me? I will kill you. You lowly ant, how dare you try to control me? Die.
With a roar, the being broke free from the spell's suppression and attacked Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu was prepared and remained calm. He pointed at the being. Stellar level spell. Corpse explosion. With a loud bang, the being was blown to pieces. At the same time, the mountain where the strange tree was located also turned to dust. Lin Moyu had used the strange tree as material for the corpse explosion, killing the being. This was Lin Moyu's plan from the beginning. He didn't revive the strange tree because he feared the being wasn't strong enough to kill it, which would have resulted in his own death. Before Lin Moyu could celebrate, a red light suddenly appeared above his head, and an axe came down.
Damn, a curse.
As the axe fell, Lin Moyu's soul trembled. His mind went blank, and he couldn't react. In his soul world, a giant axe appeared, slashing down heavily. Cracks appeared on the crystal barrier, and the talent tree shook violently. The axe struck repeatedly, and the cracks on the crystal barrier spread like a spider web, ready to shatter at any moment. The talent tree extended, trying to stop the axe, but to no avail. Half a second later, Lin Moyu regained his senses. His soul power surged, strengthening the crystal barrier. Instinctively, he raised his Lin Tianzai staff, and the soul fire gem emitted a yellow light, enhancing the barrier's defense. But this enhancement wouldn't last long. Lin Moyu's eyes flashed with determination, and his soul charged out of the soul world. The axe instantly appeared above his soul, slashing down. The soul collapsed, and in the next moment, the talent tree burst with brilliant purple light, and the soul was reborn within the soul world. The soul world was restored to its original state. The curse-formed axe struck the soul world again, and cracks reappeared on the crystal barrier. 2 seconds later, the spell representing state immunity in the soul world erupted with dazzling light, sweeping out a unique power. The curse-formed axe shattered and disappeared without a trace. Lin Moyu's body recovered from its stiffness, his face pale.
I didn't expect this to trigger a curse. Such a powerful curse, directly attacking the soul. If my soul weren't strong enough, I would have died. Billions of years have worn down most of the curse's power. Otherwise, I would have died instantly.
There are many types of curses, the most common being attack curses that directly target the soul. The strange tree's curse was this type. The flower bud's curse was more of a mind control type, inducing despair and leading to self-destruction. The strength of a curse depends on the user's power. As the strange tree turned to dust, the 100-meter mountain collapsed. leaving a massive pit with a diameter of 10,000 meters. This indicated that the strange tree had occupied the entire area, not just the visible part. Lin Moyu had the skeleton god general fly him away from the pit, feeling safe only after distancing himself. He calmed his mind and began to ponder the information he had obtained. The most crucial information was about Turul. Turul was both a race and a world. They ruled an entire world, exterminating all other races. The Turul mentioned in the journal referred to the Turul world, similar to the Great World. 1448 Chapter 1448. When the sky falls, there will be tall ones to hold it up. Starting from the mysterious manner, all the information obtained began to connect at this moment. Lin Moyu's understanding of ancient events became clear.
The Turul tribe unified the Turul world. It might not have been called the Turul world before, but that doesn't matter. Then they encountered that mysterious master, who was even more powerful. His army invaded the Turul world. Not just the Turul world, but also Blue Sea Paradise. These are all worlds, not just races. One by one, worlds like the Great World were occupied by that master. That master god ruled over dozens of worlds, his power unimaginable. Until that mysterious master found a new world, triggering another war. This new world was very powerful, and the two sides were evenly matched. The mysterious master's army was damaged, and various worlds took the opportunity to rebel. In the end, that master should have been defeated.
Lin Moyu was suddenly shocked. He thought of the Great World runes he saw through the black hole. The Great World runes were severely damaged, as if they were about to collapse. Connecting this with the scenes he saw in the mysterious manner, where the powerful being summoned the Great World runes, a terrifying thought grew in his mind.
The Great World is the world that fought against that mysterious master. Even if it's not, the Great World is at least a world that was once graced by his glory. That's why there are still traces of the ancient war in the Great World, such as battlefields and chaotic rules left from that war.
Lin Moyu's thoughts spread, feeling that he had touched upon an enormous secret.
From the information obtained from the chaotic rules, that mysterious master did not truly die. Perhaps one day, he will return and reassemble his army.
If this happens, it will be an incredibly terrifying outcome. Lin Moyu didn't know if the strongest in his great world could withstand it. His level was not enough. He was far from reaching such figures. What kind of existence is the legendary invincible strongman? And can he stop that mysterious master? He recalled the strongest beings he had encountered. Antares, the mysterious man, and the old man riding the green ox. Yes, that old man was the strongest he had ever seen, bar none. Even Antares did not dare to mention his name. As his strength increased, he had some guesses about Antares' power. Antares was not just at the god-sovereign realm. He was likely a being who had set foot in the other shore at least half a step into the other shore like Zhu Qiwu. But even such a strong man did not dare to mention the old man's name, indicating how powerful the old man with the green ox was.
Perhaps he can stop the other side.
Lin Moyu comforted himself, thinking that the great world was not without peerless strongmen. He just didn't know them yet. Then he couldn't help but mock himself.
Why am I worrying about this? When the sky falls, there will be tall ones to hold it up. Besides, who knows when that master will return? It might be 10,000 years, 100,000 years before he returns. I'm just worrying for nothing.
Lin Moyu felt he was being overly anxious, finding it somewhat amusing. After resting enough, Lin Moyu checked the map in his mind. During this time, the skeletons had explored a large area, mostly plains. Knowing that Turul was a world, Lin Moyu had a new understanding of the word.
Vast.
In the face of a world, thousands or tens of thousands of light years are nothing, let alone a few billion kilometers. This place could at most be considered a region within the Turul world, possibly a battlefield, nothing more. He had a feeling that he might not gain much here. However, obtaining this information already made the trip worthwhile. Based on the information obtained so far, as long as he reported it, the task would be considered complete. He knew how much the upper echelons valued ancient information.
I guess they are also searching for remnants from ancient times, perhaps also worried about the mysterious master's revival. But what does that have to do with me? I just need to stay alive, cultivate well, and when I have the strength, change fate for them.
In Area 9 to 58, outside the Great Vortex, hundreds of skeletons were in a daze. A lotus flower flew out of the void, stopping outside the vortex. The lotus had 18 petals, golden in color, known as the 18 Golden Lotus. In the Buddhist clan, many people like to use lotus-shaped artifacts as their vehicles. Lotuses were classified by color and the number of petals into different levels. Arhats equivalent to true gods could only use silver lotuses. Golden lotuses were reserved for bodhisattvas. Even among golden lotuses, there were strict hierarchies. 6-petal golden lotuses were for low-level bodhisattvas, 9-petal for mid-level bodhisattvas, and only high-level bodhisattvas could use 12-petal golden lotuses. In the Buddhist clan, using artifacts beyond one's level was punishable. As for the 18-petal golden lotus, it was exclusively for little Buddhas. At the God-sovereign realm, one would start with a 24-petal golden lotus. The golden lotus was both a vehicle and a defensive artifact, with extremely strong defensive capabilities. On the golden lotus sat a little Buddha. He wore a golden cassock, a golden Buddha crown, held a golden alms bowl in his right hand, and a string of 9 Buddha beads in his left hand. From head to toe, every item was an artifact armed to the teeth. He stopped before the great vortex, seeing the dazed skeleton god warriors. His originally solemn expression turned into a frown, clearly displeased by the deathly aura emanating from the skeleton god warriors.
Where did these demons and monsters come from? Today, this Buddha will cleanse you.
As he spoke, the golden Buddha crown on his head emitted a brilliant light, transforming into a golden sword that swept across the starry sky. With the sound of Buddha chants, the golden sword passed through, and the skeleton god warriors melted like snow, dying silently. Because they had lost contact with Lin Moyu, these skeleton god warriors truly died, not revived by the undying undead spell. After sweeping away the skeleton god warriors with one sword, the little Buddha chanted,
Amitabha, dust to dust, earth to earth.
At this moment, a deafening laugh came from the starry sky.
Golden light, little Buddha, you're still alive.
Golden light, little Buddha frowned, clearly displeased with the question. But he did not lose his temper, instead saying,
Soul devourer, little god sovereign, you're alive too. Of course, how could I die?
Amid the deafening voice, a demon warship flew over and stopped steadily. The demon warship, fierce and menacing, formed a stark contrast with the golden light little Buddha's 18-petal golden lotus. The warship emitted an aura close to the God-sovereign realm, a God-sovereign level warship. Golden light little Buddha looked at the warship with envy. Though it looked ugly, it was a genuine God-sovereign level warship, much stronger than his 18-petal golden lotus. Even all his possessions combined couldn't match this warship. Soul Devourer Little God Sovereign flew out of the warship, stopping steadily before Golden Light Little Buddha, only 1,000 meters apart, a very close distance. Soul Devourer Little God Sovereign said,
Are you ready?
Golden Light Little Buddha said,
Everything is ready. I hope you won't go back on your word after it's done.
Soul Devourer Little God Sovereign laughed heartily.
Our Soul Devourer lineage and your Golden Light lineage have cooperated many times. How could we go back on our word? Amitabha, good.
Golden Light Little Buddha chanted.
Then let's not delay, let's go in. All right, after you, little Buddha.
Soul Devourer laughed, making a gesture of invitation. Golden Light Little Buddha glanced at him, then stepped on the golden lotus and flew into the vortex. 1449, 1449. Chapter 1449. Turning Poison into Treasure, Rational Use of Curses. Inside the Tural world, Lin Moyu, who had just made some new discoveries, suddenly paused. The number of skeleton god warriors had suddenly decreased.
The skeleton god warriors that returned to the great world were killed.
Lin Moyu's eyes turned cold. Someone had killed his skeleton god warriors and had very likely entered the Tural world. He didn't care if they entered the Tural world, but killing his skeleton god warriors meant making an enemy of him. If it was done by a hostile race, then it was an eye for an eye. However, because the two worlds were separated, there was no way to communicate, so Lin Moyu didn't know who did it. But that didn't matter. There were millions of skeletons moving in the Tural world. As long as the other party entered, he would eventually find out. Lin Moyu moved towards the newly discovered area. On the vast plain, he finally saw a different landscape. A gigantic blood-red flower stood alone on the boundless plain. This flower was as tall as a mountain, several thousand meters high. Its huge petals swayed gently in the breeze. Unsurprisingly, it was also dead, and what he saw now was just a corpse. After billions of years, the corpse had not decayed at all and remained as vibrant as blood. This flower was identical to the flower bud Lin Moyu had encountered earlier, only much larger. The flower bud could be considered its juvenile form, while this flower was fully grown and in full bloom. Its strength and realm had reached a level Lin Moyu couldn't imagine. At least it was at the other shore, perhaps even beyond. The petals were layered, and many wounds could be seen on them, with some petals almost severed. Such a tall flower, several thousand meters high, also endured the strong pull of the Tural land. But this pull was nothing to it. Its strength was so great that even its corpse was terrifying, ignoring the pull. Lin Moyu knew he couldn't fly up. The height of several thousand meters was beyond his reach. Even if he could fly, he wouldn't dare to go up. Even the strange tree had left a terrible curse. How could this obviously stronger flower not have left a curse? Lin Moyu stood tens of thousands of meters away, bypassing it from a distance. Suddenly, a breeze blew. The plain always had wind, which was not surprising. But this breeze was different. Accompanied by the breeze, a blue light suddenly appeared above Lin Moyu's head. A curse descended. His thoughts became chaotic in an instant, filled with despair about life and an uncontrollable urge to commit suicide. Lin Moyu struggled to gather his will, trying to cut off these inappropriate thoughts. He quickly recalled his past, thinking of his beloved wife, his sister, and one beautiful memory after another. The fire of hope burned brightly in his heart and soul, driving away the unwarranted pessimism. Finally, the feeling of despair was gradually dispelled. Half a second later, state immunity activated, and an invisible force swept through his soul world, erasing all pessimism. Compared to the previous two times, Lin Moyu was extremely calm and composed this time. After recovering from the curse, Lin Moyu looked at the blood-red flower tens of thousands of meters away.
How can there be a curse? The power of the curse doesn't seem very strong. Is it because of the distance? But how was the curse triggered?
Lin Moyu's eyes searched for all possible triggers of the curse. Finally, he made a discovery. This plain was different from other places. He saw a thin layer of grass growing on the plain not far away. It looked like grass but also resembled moss. It was very thin and similar in color to the ground, so he hadn't noticed it earlier. After walking billions of miles on the plain, the unchanging ground made him overlook the moss. On the moss, there were some tiny pollen grains. The pollen was so small that it was invisible to the naked eye, even with enhanced vision. It was also undetectable by soul sensing, as if it didn't exist. Only in the undead vision could the pollen be seen, smaller than dust, floating in the air with the wind. The closer to the flower, the more pollen there was. Most of the pollen was concentrated within a range of tens of thousands of meters around the flower, with only a few grains outside this range. The breeze just now had carried the pollen, and one grain had landed on him, triggering the curse. But the pollen was so small that the curse it triggered wasn't very powerful. Even without state immunity, he could have withstood it. Lin Moyu estimated that with a strong enough will, a soul quality of high third grade would be enough to withstand it. This was a mental curse with strong bewitching and guiding effects.
The 3 people who returned alive with the curse must have been affected by a mental curse. Their will wasn't strong enough, leading to mental collapse and soul annihilation. Unless their consciousness was erased, but the curse had already penetrated their soul, eroding their consciousness, becoming a subconscious influence. Erasing their consciousness wouldn't help.
A curse is a terrifying form of attack, and the Tural tribe, skilled in curses, was equally terrifying. No wonder they could rule an entire world, highlighting the terror of that mysterious master even more. Another breeze blew, carrying more pollen. Lin Moyu instinctively retreated quickly, but after a few steps he suddenly stopped. In his soul world, after clearing all the curse's power, Lin Moyu suddenly found that his soul seemed to have strengthened. His soul had long reached the peak of the 4th grade with a jade-like quality. But for a long time after that, there had been no change. His cultivation had risen from true God to God King, and his physical body had reached the God King realm, but his soul had not improved. In others' eyes, Lin Moyu's soul was already very strong, even paving the way to the other shore. This was why Zhu Qiwu valued Lin Moyu, seeing great potential in him. In Zhu Qiwu's eyes, Lin Moyu's soul was already perfect. Even Zhu Qiwu himself was not much better. But in Lin Moyu's eyes, his soul had not improved, leaving him somewhat dissatisfied. Previously, when he was cursed by the strange tree, he almost died. If his soul had been a bit stronger, breaking through the 4th grade to the 5th grade, he wouldn't have been in such danger. Now, Lin Moyu suddenly discovered that his soul had strengthened a bit, filling him with immense joy.
Confronting the curse is like honing the will and training the soul. It's similar to using stellar fire to train the body.
He had finally found a way to train and enhance his soul. Lin Moyu's eyes shone brightly. A flash of light passed by, and the Buddha Lich appeared beside him, chanting Buddha sounds that echoed across the vast plain. With the help of the Buddha Lich, Lin Moyu used the True Sight spell. True Sight stirred the laws of fate, creating ripples and capturing some fragments of future possibilities, feeding them back to Lin Moyu's mind. Lin Moyu saw one possible future and couldn't help but smile. His idea was feasible. Instead of retreating, he advanced, moving forward against the wind. He wanted to come into contact with the pollen, endure the curse, and then resist it, using the pollen curse to enhance his soul. 1450. Chapter 1450. The future seen through true sight. Lin Moyu would not recklessly charge forward. Training also needed to be done step by step, from easy to difficult, gradually progressing. He was cultivating, not seeking death. Facing the wind, he switched to undead vision and actively made contact with a pollen grain. A blue light shone above his head, and the curse descended. His thoughts fell into chaos again. Pessimism and despair rose from the depths of his soul. At this moment, the desire to commit suicide was magnified countless times. Lin Moyu resisted with his will, while controlling state immunity to prevent it from expelling the curse. Only in this way could his will and soul receive the best training and achieve the best results. The power of the curse surged like a storm, and Lin Moyu felt his will and soul were like a small boat in a giant wave, ready to capsize at any moment. Once capsized, it would be an eternal doom. Once the will was eroded and twisted, it was more terrifying than anything else. When a person wholeheartedly wants to commit suicide, no one can save him. Lin Moyu's will fought against the curse, expelling all kinds of negative emotions. In the process of resistance, his will was tempered, and his soul was elevated. After just 1 minute, the curse retreated, and Lin Moyu finally won this battle. His face appeared somewhat pale. Just 1 minute of resistance had consumed a lot of mental energy. But Lin Moyu's eyes were filled with excitement and exhilaration.
843, it's possible, really no problem. My soul will step into the 5th grade, just today.
Just 1 minute of resistance had once again enhanced his soul. The jade soul turned purple. Originally, there was a touch of purple in the center of his soul, and now this purple had grown stronger. Although the growth was very small, it was indeed stronger than before. As long as he persisted, it wouldn't take long for the purple to become stronger and eventually occupy his entire soul. From the peak of the 4th grade jade soul turning purple, stepping into the 5th grade, becoming a 5th grade purple jade soul. While all the god sovereigns were striving to make their souls reach the 5th grade purple jade soul, Lin Moyu had already taken the lead as a god king. After a short rest and recovery, Lin Moyu once again walked towards the flower, actively accepting the curse brought by the pollen. The wind on the plain blew one gust after another. Lin Moyu controlled the rhythm, each time only making contact with one pollen grain. Now he was still 50,000 meters away from the flower, where the pollen was sparse, allowing him to control the number of pollen grains he came into contact with. First, he made contact with one grain at a time. After adapting, as his will and soul both grew stronger, he would make contact with more pollen grains. Then he could try making contact with 2 or 3 grains at the same time. The more pollen grains, the stronger the curse. 2 days later, Lin Moyu had already approached the flower by 10,000 meters. He had now started making contact with 2 pollen grains at the same time. The curse brought by 2 pollen grains was about 50% stronger than before. As Lin Moyu had guessed, the more pollen grains he touched at the same time, the stronger the curse. In just 2 days, Lin Moyu's will had become much stronger, and the purple in his soul had increased significantly. Originally, it only occupied the heart area, but now the entire chest was covered in purple, and the purple was spreading towards the abdomen. As his soul grew stronger, Lin Moyu felt his soul was at least twice as strong as when he first entered the Tural world. Although still at the peak of the 4th grade, not yet reaching the 5th grade, it had indeed become much stronger. Even among souls at the peak of the 4th grade, there were significant differences. The gains became the greatest motivation, and Lin Moyu continued to accept the curse of the pollen, continuing to temper his soul. He increased the number of pollen grains he made contact with, starting to touch 3 grains at the same time, and the curse grew stronger again. After adapting, he increased the number of pollen grains again. Lin Moyu's adaptation speed became faster and faster, and the number of pollen grains he could touch at the same time increased rapidly. By the 5th day, Lin Moyu could already touch 10 pollen grains at the same time. Touching 10 pollen grains at the same time triggered a curse more than 5 times stronger than at the beginning, but it posed no danger to Lin Moyu. The purple light in his soul had already covered his chest and abdomen, seemingly spreading towards his limbs. At this point, he was only 10,000 meters away from the flower. Lin Moyu stopped. The moss in the 10,000-meter area was noticeably thicker, and the pollen was more abundant and dense. The 10,000-meter area could be considered the core area of the flower. Once he entered the core area, Lin Moyu knew he might no longer be able to control it easily. At that time, if he was not careful, he would have to face the result of touching dozens or even hundreds of pollen grains at the same time. The power of the curse would be extremely strong, and he might not be able to withstand it. If he used state immunity, there might be no danger, but the effect of tempering his soul would be greatly reduced. But if he stopped here with the current pollen density, touching 10 pollen grains at the same time was the limit. 10 pollen grains no longer had any effect on his soul. Even if he was lucky and touched 11 pollen grains at the same time, it would be of no use. He needed to touch dozens or hundreds of pollen grains at the same time to make his soul progress quickly. Lin Moyu tried to control the pollen with his power, but it was useless. The pollen was completely uncontrollable, seemingly only affected by the wind on the plain. This was the Tural world, a world different from the Great World with its own unique rules. Perhaps there were mysteries in the wind that Lin Moyu couldn't understand. To advance or not, if he wanted to continue enhancing his soul, he had to advance. The key was how to advance. Without a strategy, recklessly charging in would lead to what result? Buddha sounds rang out beside Lin Moyu, and the Buddha Lich appeared again. Lin Moyu decisively borrowed the Buddha Lich's true sight to see the potential problems he might face if he advanced. The future was uncertain, but knowing a highly probable outcome was better than knowing nothing. Lin Moyu was never stubborn. A useful spell like True Sight should naturally be used to its fullest. The Buddha Lich used true sight, and the spell silently transmitted a strange wave. Fragments of future possibilities from the laws of fate were foreseen and presented in Lin Moyu's mind. Lin Moyu saw some scenes that were highly likely to happen in the future. The result was unexpected. He advanced and touched dozens of pollen grains at the same time, struggling to resist the curse, unable to move. Lin Moyu knew this was an inevitable result. The pollen triggered a powerful curse, inevitably causing him to become dazed and unable to react. This had been happening for the past few days, but each time the daze lasted only a short time, usually less than a minute. Moreover, he had placed skeleton god generals outside, so he wasn't afraid of being ambushed. But after entering the core area within 10,000 meters, everything changed. A large amount of pollen fell on him, continuously triggering curses. Blue light kept appearing above his head, and sometimes, before one curse ended, the next one began. Relying on state immunity, Lin Moyu expelled the curses one by one, but he inevitably fell into the curses again and again. State immunity could only expel curses after they took effect, not provide real-time immunity against curses beyond the god's sovereign realm. Lin Moyu saw himself in a dazed state for a long time, losing control of his body and unable to move. At this moment, a golden light appeared in the distance behind him. 1451, 1451. Chapter 1451. Do you think others will believe it? In the future vision, the golden light turned into a sharp sword, sweeping away the skeleton god generals he had placed outside. Lin Moyu saw two figures appear in his vision. One was bathed in golden light, wearing a Buddha crown, draped in a golden robe, standing on a 10-petal golden lotus, holding a golden alms bowl in his left hand and a string of Buddha beads in his right hand. The other had a ferocious face, with a single horn on his head, and lightning seemed to dance on the horn, exuding a terrifying power. After the two arrived, they launched a fierce attack on him. Due to the influence of the curse, Lin Moyu was unable to move. The vision ended there, and Lin Moyu did not see the outcome. But it was not hard to imagine that the result would not be pleasant.
A little Buddha from the Buddhist clan, a death-cursed demon from the demon clan, both at the little god sovereign level. How did they come together? It seems the relationship between the two clans is somewhat unusual. It's said that the Buddhist clan has extensive connections. Although they do not make enemies with any clan, no clan is willing to make enemies with them either.
Lin Moyu's eyes turned sharp, a faint killing intent rising. At the same time, he also became interested in the golden alms bowl held by the little Buddha. In the vision, the golden alms bowl seemed to be collecting pollen. Originally, Lin Moyu couldn't see it, but when the pollen entered the golden alms bowl, it was illuminated by the bowl's light, revealing some unique light spots.
That little Buddha's golden alms bowl seems to be able to collect pollen. If I use the golden alms bowl to control the collection of pollen and then control the quantity to curse myself.
Lin Moyu thought of a seemingly feasible method to freely control the pollen and continue to temper his soul.
It's like getting a pillow when you're sleepy. Not bad, not bad.
Lin Moyu smiled, no longer advancing, but retreating 1,000 meters, quietly waiting for the two to arrive. The future result might change, but the general direction would not. Small changes could be made, but the big picture would remain the same. Lin Moyu understood this principle and would not think that just because he didn't enter the 10,000-meter area, the little Buddha and the demon would not come. Their arrival had nothing to do with whether he entered the 10,000-meter area or not. Connecting to the undead vision, Lin Moyu observed the situation through the skeleton god generals he had placed outside. Soon, two blazing and powerful soul fires appeared in the undead vision. The skeleton god generals quickly retreated, avoiding contact. In the vision seen through true sight, the skeleton god generals couldn't stop them, so there was no need to die in vain. The two headed straight for the flower, clearly knowing something was there. Since that was the case, Lin Moyu was in no hurry and waited silently. After a dozen minutes, the two appeared in his sight. The little Buddha, bathed in golden light, exuded a majestic Buddha aura, looking solemn and dignified. In stark contrast was the pitch-black, ferocious-looking demon. Lin Moyu carefully observed the little Buddha and found that he was not of the human race. He had a human face with features about 70 to 80% similar to humans, but his lower body was that of a fish. He stood on the 12-petal golden lotus not with legs, but with a fish tail covered in scales.
Was he once from the Starry Sky Merman clan?
Lin Moyu wondered. The Starry Sky Merman clan had little interaction with other clans and was very mysterious. Unexpectedly, someone from their clan had joined the Buddhist clan, showing that the Buddhist clan's influence was far beyond his imagination. When Lin Moyu saw the two, they also saw him. Enemies meeting face to face, especially between the human race and the demon race, always led to intense hostility. The hatred between the human race and the demon race had lasted for countless years. They would fight to the death upon meeting. The death-cursed demon Little God Sovereign's eyes gleamed, and the lightning on his horn became more intense. But he did not immediately attack. Instead, he glanced at the little Buddha, seemingly asking for his opinion. The little Buddha gave the death-cursed demon Little God Sovereign a look, then said loudly to Lin Moyu,
Ba, I didn't expect to meet a friend from the human race here. What a surprise.
Lin Moyu chuckled.
I didn't expect to meet a little Buddha from the Buddhist clan and a little God Sovereign from the demon race here either. Unexpectedly, the Buddhist clan, which claims to be neutral and not make enemies with any clan, has already allied with the demon race.
Upon hearing this, the little Buddha's face changed dramatically.
Friend, don't speak nonsense. Our Buddhist clan is above worldly affairs and never participates in the struggles of various clans.
Lin Moyu smiled.
Do you think others will believe it?
He raised the recording stone in his hand, which had recorded the scene before him. The little Buddha's face turned even uglier. He hadn't wanted to fight Lin Moyu because Lin Moyu was from the human race, which was not easy to provoke. Moreover, being able to come here and remain unscathed showed that Lin Moyu was very powerful. He was here to do business and didn't want any complications. But now, with just 2 sentences, Lin Moyu had forced him into a corner. The Buddhist clan always claimed to be above worldly affairs and never participated in the struggles of various clans, which gave them a transcendent status in the great world. Other clans wouldn't provoke them either. If other clans knew they were with the demon race, their long-standing reputation would be shattered. The image they had built over the years would be overturned, especially since he was a little Buddha, and beside him was a little God Sovereign from the demon race. If used carefully, it could create the illusion that the Buddhist clan had allied with the demon race. Even if others didn't fully believe it, they would harbor doubts about the Buddhist clan in the future. As far as he knew, the Buddhist clan also had some secret cooperation with the Golden Eagle clan. If this matter spread, it might ruin their cooperation with the Golden Eagle clan. The little Buddha thought of many things in an instant, and his face turned gloomy.
Friend from the human race, you will bring trouble upon yourself by doing this. Hand over the recording stone, and I will let you go.
Lin Moyu chuckled.
Are you threatening me? When has the human race ever been afraid of threats?
The death-cursed demon Little God Sovereign sneered.
Why so much nonsense? Just kill him. Dead men tell no tales.
His approach was more direct and simple. Kill Lin Moyu and be done with it.
Ba.
The little Buddha chanted.
Since you are so stubborn, I have no choice.
He gave the death-cursed demon Little God Sovereign a look, and the latter laughed heartily. The lightning on his horn burst forth, and a bolt of lightning appeared out of thin air, striking towards Lin Moyu. The lightning was fast, but due to the influence of the Tural world, it became traceable, far less effective than in the Great World. Lin Moyu easily stepped aside to avoid the lightning, and sharp sword lights flew from all directions, instantly enveloping the death-cursed demon Little God Sovereign. The death-cursed demon Little God Sovereign ignored the sword lights, and the lightning on his horn expanded into a lightning ball, enveloping himself. The sword lights struck the lightning ball, causing only slight deformation, unable to break through. The skeleton god generals at the 9th stage of the God King realm were still a bit lacking against the death-cursed demon little god sovereign. The lightning ball exploded, turning into countless electric snakes, shooting towards the direction of the sword lights. In the sky and on the distant ground, clusters of lightning exploded. The skeleton god generals couldn't avoid it and were shattered into pieces.
Trash! Useless tricks! Die!
The death-cursed demon little god sovereign roared disdainfully and launched another attack on Lin Moyu. A lightning ball flew out and then disappeared into the void. In the next moment, the lightning ball suddenly appeared in front of Lin Moyu and exploded. 1452 Chapter 1452. This guy definitely isn't normal. Lin Moyu felt himself being locked onto and immediately spread his undead wings, preparing to break the lock. However, he was still a step too slow, and the attack from the Soul Devourer little god sovereign came incredibly fast and fierce. A lightning ball instantly appeared in front of him and then exploded. The thunderous roar was deafening, and a large area of space turned into a sea of lightning, engulfing Lin Moyu. Immediately after, the second, third, and fourth lightning balls flew out, each explosion following the other. The moss on the ground was destroyed by the explosions, revealing the ground beneath. The ground was also cracked open by the lightning. The moss, when attacked, released hidden pollen. The pollen seemed to have a target and flew towards the Soul Devourer little god sovereign. At this moment, the golden bowl in the hands of the golden light little Buddha shone brightly, collecting all the pollen. The golden light little Buddha chanted an unnamed Buddhist scripture, and the light from the golden bowl became even more dazzling. The pollen inside the bowl was dissolved and eventually disappeared. The golden light little Buddha used Buddhist techniques to neutralize the curse power within the pollen. However, this process was not fast. The golden light little Buddha's neutralization speed couldn't keep up with the absorption speed of the pollen. So he couldn't help but remind,
"Take it easy, there's no rush."
Upon hearing this, the Soul Devourer little god sovereign stopped, sneering.
"This guy should be nothing but bones by now."
By this time, he had already thrown out at least 50 lightning balls, turning a large area into flat ground. The sea of lightning continued, rising and falling like waves. Lin Moyu walked out of the sea of lightning unscathed. The Soul Devourer little god sovereign's face changed dramatically.
"How are you unharmed? This is impossible."
Lin Moyu smiled slightly.
"Don't you know? Here, all laws are weakened, their power only 1% of what they are in the great world. Even if you are a little god sovereign, killing me won't be easy."
All types of law attacks were weakened by the power of the Tural world, but Lin Moyu's physical body was not weakened, and his undead techniques were not weakened. The previous attacks were only 1% of their power in the great world, and when they landed on Lin Moyu, they were shared by the undead legion. The legion ruler continuously healed him, so even if he were bombarded for days and nights, he wouldn't be injured. Upon hearing this, the Soul Devourer little god sovereign was stunned for a second, then laughed loudly.
"I forgot, that's indeed the case. But you might not know, here, the power of curse techniques is not weakened."
Lin Moyu was taken aback. He hadn't noticed this. It made sense, as the Tural tribe specialized in curses. In their homeland, the power of curses would naturally not be weakened, and if possible, it would be enhanced. Seeing Lin Moyu's surprise, the Soul Devourer little god sovereign thought he was scared and laughed heartily.
"I am from the death-cursed demon lineage, you should understand."
The death-cursed demons specialized in curses and were a very special lineage within the demon race. They were few in number but very powerful, with extremely strange curse techniques. However, Lin Moyu also knew that the death-cursed demons specialized in attack curses. These were divided into physical attack curses and soul attack curses. Generally, death-cursed demons only practiced one type, and he didn't know which type this guy practiced. But regardless of the type, Lin Moyu was not afraid. The Soul Devourer little god sovereign locked onto Lin Moyu with a laugh, and the lightning on his horn turned bright red. Immediately, a bolt of lightning flew out, instantly tearing through space and landing on Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu didn't dodge. In fact, he couldn't dodge. Curses are hard to avoid and must be endured. A red light appeared above Lin Moyu's head, and the red lightning turned into a giant blade, slashing towards Lin Moyu. At the same time, this blade also appeared in his soul world, slashing heavily at the crystal barrier. Unfortunately, before the curse blade could fall, the passive technique State Immunity had already activated, sweeping out an invisible force that instantly shattered the curse. For curses beyond the God-sovereign realm, State Immunity reacts half a beat slower, needing to accumulate enough power to expel the curse. But for curses below the God-sovereign realm, State Immunity works like swatting flies, easily dispelling them. Lin Moyu stood there calmly, unmoving.
Is this your curse?
The Soul Devourer Little God-Sovereign looked incredulous.
How can you be unharmed? This is impossible.
This was the second time he shouted.
Impossible.
Before Lin Moyu could respond, the Golden Light Little Buddha spoke.
This benefactor has a way to counter curses. Your curse is useless.
Lin Moyu chuckled.
You see things clearly.
The Golden Light Little Buddha continued.
I still mean what I said. Hand over the recording stone, and I won't make things difficult for you.
Lin Moyu shook his head, casually throwing out a dozen recording stones.
Which one do you want? Take your pick.
The Golden Light Little Buddha's face turned completely dark. He knew that today's matter couldn't be resolved. The dozen recording stones were all identical, meaning that even if Lin Moyu handed over a recording stone, without checking, they wouldn't know if it was real. Moreover, no one knew how many copies Lin Moyu had made. The Golden Light Little Buddha cursed in his heart.
What kind of person is this? What normal person carries so many recording stones? These things are usually useless.
He didn't know that Lin Moyu's recording stones were all spoils of war. As for when he got them, even Lin Moyu didn't know. Anyway, he got them during battles. Recording stones weren't worth much, so he sold most of them and kept a few for himself. Unexpectedly, they came in handy here. The little Buddha chanted.
In that case, benefactor, you will stay here today.
He finally made his move, the Buddha crown on his head shining with golden light, turning into a golden sword slashing towards Lin Moyu. At the same time, Buddha sounds echoed, directly attacking the soul. A Buddha statue appeared outside the soul world, chanting scriptures trying to influence the soul. Under the Buddha sounds, the soul's reaction slowed, and movements became stiff. Externally, the golden sword formed by Buddha light slashed down. Lin Moyu's soul quality was too high, completely ignoring the Buddha sounds. But he didn't dodge. A wave appeared around him, vaguely revealing numerous bones. The golden sword slashed at the bones, encountering some resistance, then broke through the bone defense and landed on Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu stood firm, taking the sword head-on, shaking his head.
Not powerful enough.
His body also shone with golden light. The second stage God King realm body, combined with damage transfer, took the sword without injury. The little Buddha's face changed.
Troublesome. Let's attack together. Don't let him escape.
The Soul Devourer Little God Sovereign sneered.
Don't worry, he can't escape.
At this moment, Lin Moyu took out a piece of flesh, a piece emitting the aura of a God Sovereign.
Exchanging two little God Sovereigns, I wonder if it's worth it. Never mind, let's end this quickly.
With a thought, the bone hell descended, instantly enveloping the two. Before they could break through the bone hell, beautiful fireworks exploded on their bodies. The Soul Devourer Little God Sovereign let out a scream, his body blown to pieces. The Golden Light Little Buddha also screamed, his body shattered, but the golden robe he wore shone brightly, forcibly pulling his shattered body back together. The Golden Light Little Buddha was severely injured but protected by the golden robe. He didn't die. He was terrified, not knowing what method Lin Moyu had used. But that didn't matter. What mattered was that he had to escape, immediately. He realized he had provoked the wrong person. The guy in front of him was a complete monster. Just as he turned to flee, his vision went black. A giant object descended from the sky. 1453 1453. Chapter 1453. What happens when breaking through to God Lord? The golden light little Buddha didn't have time to see clearly what it was before being heavily pressed down upon. The 100,000-meter tall skeleton king, accompanied by undying flames, descended from the sky. It just happened to press down on the golden light little Buddha who was trying to escape. Lin Moyu chuckled.
This seems a bit too coincidental.
The golden light little Buddha's whole body burst with dazzling golden light. The prayer beads in his hand flew out, transforming into a 100-meter tall Buddha statue in midair. The Buddha statue raised its hand to lift the skeleton king. The statue's strength was enormous, easily flipping over the unimaginably heavy skeleton king. The golden light Buddha fled miserably from underneath, flying towards the distance without looking back. The skeleton king lay on the ground, struggling to wave the bone sword in its hand. Couldn't get up, but that didn't prevent it from using God-slaying sword. Suddenly bright sword light lit up on the golden light little Buddha's body. Amidst screams, the sword light engulfed him. The golden light little Buddha still didn't die. The golden thread Kasaya saved his life again. The Kasaya had blocked fatal attacks for him twice in a row. The Kasaya was damaged in many places, and the golden light little Buddha's injuries became heavier. The bone hell arrived as expected. As he was screaming, it fell on him again. Undying flames came from all directions. At the same time, over a dozen God King level 9 wondrous spirits inside attacked the golden light little Buddha together with overwhelming force. Normally, the golden light little Buddha wouldn't care about their attacks at all. But now he was severely injured, and these attacks became the last straw that broke the camel's back. The golden light Buddha screamed continuously. At this moment, Lin Moyu pointed a finger. A red light fell. Fusion spell. Time curse. His soul was attacked. The golden light Buddha let out even more miserable screams. At this time, the Buddha crown on his head flashed with light. Countless golden flames drilled into his head, quickly stabilizing his injuries and removing the pain.
What a nice thing indeed. It can be used for both attack and healing injuries.
Lin Moyu said teasingly, but didn't relax his attacks. His aura rose rapidly, quickly breaking through his own realm limits. Origin spell. Focus. In the blink of an eye, Lin Moyu had broken through God Lord level 9, reaching the small God Lord realm. At this time, Lin Moyu looked relaxed. Neither his physical body nor his soul felt any pressure. He felt he could continue rising upwards. With the power of origin spells and his vast undead army, he could completely break through to the God Lord realm. Just as he was about to break through to see the scenery of the God Lord realm, he suddenly stopped. He realized that breaking through to the God Lord realm here might bring big trouble. This world did not allow those above God Lord realm to enter. The limit was the small God Lord realm.
It's better not to break the rules.
Lin Moyu chuckled, keeping his realm at the peak of small God Lord. He glanced at the golden light Buddha, who had already run over 10,000 kilometers away. He casually took out a true God-level longsword and swung it. God-slaying sword, an even more powerful God-slaying sword than the Skeleton King's. The sword light flashed past, then exploded on the golden light little Buddha tens of thousands of miles away. The Kasaya on the golden light little Buddha completely shattered. This time the Kasaya could no longer withstand the attack and was utterly destroyed. The remaining power blasted into the golden light little Buddha's body, tearing it to pieces. From the shattered body, a tiny soul broke out and fled into the distance.
The little Buddhas of the Buddha race really have an extraordinary number of treasures. Too bad, you can't escape.
The golden light little Buddha's soul was protected by a golden ring, barely escaping disaster. But without a physical body, the soul became extremely fragile. After all, a little Buddha was just a little Buddha, not yet a true Buddha. Their souls had not entered the Lower River, had not been baptized by the Lower River, and were still far inferior. Now just some high-level god kings would be enough to kill it. Unfortunately, Lin Moyu had placed a large number of skeleton god generals around, numbering in the thousands. With the mark of bone hell, no matter where he fled, he would be sensed by Lin Moyu. There was no way to escape the pursuit of the skeleton god generals. Under undead vision on the vast plain, the soul fire of the golden light little Buddha was so bewitchingly conspicuous, easily captured. Sharp sword energies came from all directions. The demons he had looked down upon before now became life-taking fierce ghosts. The golden light little Buddha fled miserably, hiding here and there, but to no avail. Lin Moyu had already collected the spoils of war and followed. Just half an hour later, Lin Moyu caught up to the golden light little Buddha again. Bone hell descended. The golden light little Buddha's soul was filled with despair. Besides despair, there was also terror. He saw the soul-devouring small god lord in bone hell. Now the soul-devouring small god lord had turned completely gray, launching the fiercest attack at him.
You're a devil!
The golden light little Buddha let out a desperate roar. But it was useless. Lin Moyu responded with a cold laugh. The golden light little Buddha knew he had no chance of survival. Suddenly he put his palms together and chanted Buddhist scriptures. An unnamed sutra came out of his mouth, falling into Lin Moyu's ears. He felt something was off. The golden light little Buddha's soul became solidified and powerful in the scriptures. The Buddhist light grew stronger and stronger. He transformed into a golden Buddha. Not a little Buddha, but a true Buddha.
Instant Buddhahood!
Lin Moyu thought of a secret technique of the Buddha race, instant Buddhahood. In a short time, transform into a Buddha, possessing the combat power of a Buddha. But this secret technique was also a closely guarded secret in the Buddha race, known by very few people. This was used to fight to the death. Once used, one would be seriously injured at best or directly enter nirvana at worst. Lin Moyu frowned, not expecting the little Buddha to have such a move. As the Buddha image formed, Lin Moyu's expression changed drastically. He turned into a stream of light and fled into the distance. Alarms sounded in his soul, just like when the ancient Buddha's palm print attacked that day. Lin Moyu fled without thinking, as fast as he could. Moreover, the danger this time was even greater than last time. He would certainly die if he didn't escape. The Buddha country lich appeared behind him, using divination. Lin Moyu saw fragments of the future and immediately knew what to do. The skeleton god generals all disappeared, completely recalled. Bone hell also vanished without a trace. Lin Moyu didn't dare leave even a trace of his own tracks. Who knew if the other side could track him through some method? The golden light little Buddha, who had just completed instant Buddhahood, was stunned. Although he had achieved instant Buddhahood without a physical body or the Law River, his combat power was not comparable to a true god lord. He was actually just unwilling to die like this. But why did Lin Moyu flee so decisively? He stood there stunned for a full 2 seconds. By the time he came to his senses and wanted to chase, the originally dim sky suddenly turned bright red. The flames hidden behind the clouds suddenly revealed themselves, illuminating the entire earth bright red. Lin Moyu had already run tens of thousands of miles away. The world before his eyes suddenly turned bright red. He looked up and was shocked to his core. Above the clouds, where were there any flames? It was all scarlet curse light. Within the scarlet curse light was power that made one despair. The types of curses can generally be distinguished by color. Red curses are basically attack-type curses. They either attack the soul or the physical body, or both together. The red light in the sky was an attack-type curse. An immense curse, a terrifying pressure descended upon the earth. Lin Moyu was immediately pressed to the ground, unable to move. He finally understood what consequences breaking through to God Lord would bring here. In his vision, a red light descended from the sky, falling on the golden light little Buddha. Then the gray fire dragon formed from undying flames twisted forcefully. The great sun was crushed and exploded into fragments. The gray fire dragon opened its mouth and swallowed all the fragments into its belly, then spat them out again. 9 fireballs flew out in response, passing through the earth of the netherworld swamp and falling onto the newly formed yellow earth desert, becoming 9 fireballs hanging in the sky.
So that's how the fireballs in the Yellow Earth Desert came to be.
Lin Moyu finally knew the origin of the 9 fireballs, and he also understood some other things. After crushing the great sun, the undying flames did not return to the sky, but rushed towards the torn rift. It seemed very dissatisfied with this rift, roaring at the rift and spewing out gray flames to envelop the rift. Within the flames, the rift closed again, and the Netherworld swamp became a complete world again. The first army commander Yui cast curses again, cursing the second batch of enemies who came in. In the curses, the blood essence and laws of the second batch of enemies were all drained, and everything about them became the Yellow Earth Desert. The great battle finally came to an end. As an observer, Lin Moyu couldn't help but sigh. Although the first army group was defeated, the defeat was not complete. The first army group still had a chance, waiting for their master to return. The final scenes of the first army group's battle were deeply imprinted in Lin Moyu's soul, unable to be erased. The tombstones under the scorching sun were slowly repairing. The outermost tombstones suffered the most severe damage. The deeper the tombstones, the less damage they suffered. This also caused the images they recorded to be different. Some records were destroyed at the time. Only the first army commander Yui's tombstone recorded the complete process. After this battle, Lin Moyu finally understood the cause and effect, and knew the origin of the Netherworld swamp. It had existed since ancient times, experiencing warfare, never extinguished. It was recovering, waiting for its master to return. Lin Moyu was shocked in his heart. He could no longer imagine how strong the master mentioned by the first army commander Yui could be. Combining his own experiences, Lin Moyu felt that the master mentioned by the first army commander Yui, the person mentioned by the mysterious manor castle master, and the master mentioned by the general in the ancient tomb should be the same person. A powerful being with an incredibly strong army and unimaginable strength. But the images did not end there, they continued. Lin Moyu's consciousness had not returned, still overlooking the earth. The Netherworld swamp fell into silence. The undying flames returned to their normal form, continuing to radiate over the earth. Under its illumination, the heavily damaged swamp was slowly recovering. The first army commander Yui also returned to his own tomb. Lin Moyu's heart seemed to sink along with the entire Netherworld swamp. He fell into a strange state of drowsiness, unaware of the passage of time in this state. After an unknown amount of time, the sound of metal friction awakened Lin Moyu. His awakening seemed to also drive the awakening of the entire Netherworld swamp. The originally dead gorilla monsters revived. They stood up and wandered on the earth. The corpses in the swamp also revived. The corpses and gorilla monsters were mortal enemies, and a series of great battles erupted between them, continuing endlessly year after year. After death, the gorilla monster's soul fires reignited under the illumination of the undying flames. But they had no consciousness, only retaining their final instincts, becoming puppets that only knew how to fight. The battles between gorilla monsters and corpses mostly ended in a draw, but this was after all the corpses' home turf. Over countless years, the number of gorillas gradually decreased, but this decrease was very slow. It would take countless ages for the corpses to kill all the gorilla monsters. Time passed like this, with battles constantly taking place. Beneath the Netherworld swamp, countless monsters appeared in the Yellow Earth Desert. The Yellow Earth Desert was created based on the blood essence, laws, and consciousness of the gorilla monsters. Everything here contained the subconscious of the gorilla monsters. Under the combination of countless factors, the Yellow Earth Desert developed its own rules. Until one day, a group of people broke into the Yellow Earth Desert, fighting their way through, and finally arrived at the Netherworld swamp. They entered deep into the Netherworld swamp and engaged in fierce battles with the gorilla monsters. These people were the 23 small god lords, including Su Qingyang. A large number of gorilla monsters were killed by them, eventually attracting gorilla monsters at the small god lord level. They were beaten and fled in disarray. Most of these small god lords died, with no survivors. Only a few escaped the pursuit of the gorilla monsters. But they ultimately died in the swamp. Su Qingyang was one of the very lucky ones. The soul bead he carried was of a very high grade, blocking the swamp's gaze.
Oh, it's her.
In these scenes, Lin Moyu saw a person. 1454, 1454. Chapter 1454. The terrifyingly powerful curse, the blood-red light, with a hint of enchantment, stung Lin Moyu's eyes. Tears streamed down Lin Moyu's face. The pain was excruciating. But he endured it, not even wanting to switch to undead vision. This was an almost ultimate curse power, far stronger than the power of the other shore. He was fortunate to witness it and had to see it clearly. Missing this opportunity would be a great loss. In the red light, the newly enlightened golden light little Buddha silently disintegrated. He didn't even last 0.1 seconds before completely disappearing from the world. The red light gradually faded. The clouds once again shrouded the earth, and the world returned from bright red to dim.
Fortunately, it didn't involve me.
At this moment, Lin Moyu felt a bit lucky. Fortunately, he had retracted all his skeleton god generals, leaving no trace of himself. Just now, in the true sight vision, he saw the curse descend, instantly killing the golden light little Buddha. Then the curse found the nearby skeleton god generals and the bone hell. Through the mysterious connection between the two, it found him. His fate was no surprise. He would have followed the golden light little Buddha to the underworld. So, without hesitation, he retracted everything related to himself. Cutting off all connections, he changed the course of the future. He was very lucky and saved himself. True sight was indeed a good thing, once again saving him from death, allowing him to escape with his life. He now understood very clearly what would happen if he broke through to the God-sovereign realm here, certain death. Cautiously, he went over to check and confirmed that the golden light little Buddha had indeed left nothing behind. Actually, it couldn't be said that nothing was left behind. Lin Moyu still had the golden light little Buddha's flesh and blood, but he didn't dare to take it out now, nor did he dare to turn him into a resurrected being. Who knew if the curse would come knocking again?
For safety's sake, it's better to leave here first.
He looked up at the sky, then retracted his gaze. He knew these matters were not something he could touch yet. If he forced himself to touch them, it would be a dead end. Lin Moyu made a decision and returned to the location of the flower. He took out the spoils he had obtained from the golden light little Buddha. In this battle, he had obtained 3 spoils: a golden alms bowl, a string of Buddha beads, and a Buddha crown. The golden alms bowl and Buddha beads were intact, but the Buddha crown had cracks and was somewhat damaged in the battle. As for the 18-petal golden lotus, the golden robe, and the golden ring that protected the soul during escape, they had all been destroyed. The golden alms bowl, Buddha beads, and Buddha crown were all high-level artifacts in the God King realm. The only drawback was that they hadn't birthed artifact spirits. If they had birthed artifact spirits, they would be top-grade artifacts in the God King realm.
The Buddhist clan is indeed wealthy.
Lin Moyu put away the Buddha beads and Buddha crown. These 2 items were useless to him. He was interested in the golden alms bowl. Previously, he had used words to anger the golden light little Buddha, forcing him to act against him. This way, his bone hell could mark him. Otherwise, if he wanted to leave, it wouldn't be easy to stop him. The recording stone was a means to force him to act. As for the soul devourer little God sovereign, Lin Moyu didn't take him seriously at all. However, Lin Moyu was also curious about what the 2 were doing here. It was clear they had a purpose and didn't come randomly. Judging by their direction, it could be inferred that they came to find the flower. Guessing was too troublesome, and Lin Moyu was too lazy to guess. The best way was to revive the golden light little Buddha and ask him, but he didn't dare to do that now. Lin Moyu patted his forehead, wondering why he was so curious.
Why should I care what they came to do? It has nothing to do with me. If I really want to know, I can revive him and ask after I leave.
He refocused his attention on the golden alms bowl. The golden light little Buddha was dead, and the golden alms bowl had become an ownerless item. Injecting his soul power into it, Lin Moyu quickly mastered the use of the golden alms bowl and understood its functions. The golden alms bowl had two functions: containment and purification. The containment function served the purification function. No matter what law, it could be contained and purified. The speed of purification depended on the strength of the contained object and the user's power. However, this function was useless to Lin Moyu, as purification required the use of Buddhist techniques. Lin Moyu didn't understand Buddhist techniques, so he couldn't use this function. But he could use the containment function to contain foreign objects and release them all at once or multiple times. However, containment had its limits. The quantity couldn't be large. For example, with pollen, the maximum number that could be contained at once was 30 grains. There were thousands of pollen grains, and 30 grains were just a drop in the bucket. But for Lin Moyu, it was enough. After experiencing the curses multiple times, Lin Moyu had grasped the pattern. Using one pollen grain as the base, the curse's power was 100. For each additional pollen grain, the curse's power increased by 50. 2 pollen grains triggered a curse power of 150, 3 grains 200, and so on. Previously, without using state immunity, Lin Moyu could easily withstand the curse power triggered by 10 pollen grains. 10 pollen grains were no longer useful to Lin Moyu. If he wanted to continue enhancing his soul, he needed to increase the number of pollen grains. There were plenty of pollen grains everywhere, but in the area outside the 10,000-meter range, the pollen was more dispersed. To stack the curse's power, he needed to touch the pollen simultaneously. The more pollen grains, the harder it was to meet this condition. Only in the area within the 10,000-meter range did the pollen quantity increase sharply, easily meeting this condition. In the true sight prediction, after entering the 10,000-meter range, he would continuously encounter large amounts of pollen, triggering powerful curses. Because of state immunity, these curses wouldn't kill him but would leave him in a dazed state for a long time, making it difficult to escape. Also, because of state immunity, the curse power would be continuously expelled, preventing him from fully resisting and making it difficult for his soul to be effectively tempered and enhanced. State immunity could save his life but also acted as a shackle. So Lin Moyu needed a way to control the pollen, and unexpectedly, the golden light little Buddha delivered the treasure to his doorstep. Moreover, the golden light little Buddha was traveling with a demon and had destroyed his skeleton god generals, giving him a reason to kill and seize the treasure. Lin Moyu returned to the area outside the 10,000-meter range, less than 10 meters from the pollen. He activated the golden alms bowl, which emitted a suction force, starting to absorb the pollen. Lin Moyu controlled the range, limiting the suction to a finger's width. The pollen, invisible to the naked eye, was absorbed, and as it entered the golden alms bowl, it was enveloped in golden light, emitting tiny golden glows. Lin Moyu absorbed only 12 pollen grains. 12 pollen grains increased the curse power by about 20%, just right for tempering his soul. It wouldn't cause severe damage to his soul and will but would create enough pressure. Various feelings of despair grew in the depths of his soul, affecting every thought. Lin Moyu used his will to fight against the feelings of despair, not daring to relax. Under immense pressure, in repeated extreme confrontations, his soul gradually grew stronger. In the Buddhist world, Buddha light illuminated the starry sky. Golden light shone over vast star regions.
Amitabha.
Suddenly, a Buddha's name echoed through the universe. The Buddha's name carried sorrow, and the Buddha light turned into golden raindrops, falling in the Buddhist world. Everyone knew that a Buddha had fallen. This was the second Buddha to fall recently. 1455 1455. Chapter 1455. Find a way to extradite him to the Buddha clan. The fall of a Buddha is akin to the fall of a deity among humans. Buddha light turned into golden rain, drifting in the world of the Buddha clan. Many members of the Buddha clan fell into grief, chanting Buddha's name. In the core world of the Buddha clan, flowers bloomed everywhere, and the Buddha light was as thick as liquid. Buddhas could be seen sitting in the void everywhere. This is the pure land of ultimate bliss, the holy land of the Buddha clan. At this moment, The holy land of the Buddha clan was also raining golden light rain. A giant Buddha with a great sun golden wheel on his back appeared in the light rain, his face showing a bitter expression, exuding an ancient and desolate aura.
Greetings, ancient Buddha!
All the Buddhas in the sky saluted him simultaneously. This appearing figure was indeed an ancient Buddha. The ancient Buddha spoke.
The little Buddha of golden light, who attained Buddhahood at the moment of death, do you know where he went?
A huge voice rang out, as if talking to himself, or asking the Buddhas in the sky. After a while, a Buddha said,
The golden light should have gone to the vermilion bird battlefield. Before leaving, he had contact with a little god of the demon clan, seemingly to make a deal.
Another deep voice sounded.
I know about this. In the demon clan, there is a half-seated statue of a Buddha. The golden light should have been trading for this.
The function of the seated Buddha statue is well known among the Buddhas in the sky. Even if it is only half, it is very likely to allow the little Buddha of golden light to evolve into a Buddha kingdom. Whether there is a Buddha kingdom or not makes a world of difference in the combat power after becoming a Buddha. Therefore, it is very normal for the little Buddha of golden light to go and trade with the demon clan. The ancient Buddha pondered for a few seconds.
Send someone to the demon clan to inquire about where the two went, and whether the little god of the soul-devouring demon clan is still alive. By Buddha's decree.
A Buddha slowly stood up, turned into a golden stream of light, and disappeared instantly. The ancient Buddha continued.
A few days ago, the Buddha of joy fell. I used my Buddha's thought as a guide and struck a palm. According to my senses, this palm also went to the vermilion bird battlefield. You should also go and inquire.
As his words fell, another Buddha stood up and left the pure land of ultimate bliss. The ancient Buddha spoke again.
I heard that on the must-kill list of various clans, a young man named Lin Moyu from the human clan is at the top. Do you know this person?
A Buddha said in a deep voice.
Ancient Buddha, do you remember, a few years ago, a strong man from the human clan came to seek justice for a junior.
This matter is one of the major events that have happened in the Buddha clan in recent years, and the ancient Buddha naturally knows. At that time, the strong man from the human clan was very forceful and did not listen to the Buddha clan's explanation at all. In the end, the Buddha clan chose to back down, stopped preaching Buddha, and did not pursue the cause of death of Kongwen Buddha. At that time, the Buddha clan did not know for whom the strong man from the human clan was seeking justice. Now it seems it was precisely for Lin Moyu. The ancient Buddha pondered for a few seconds.
You should pay attention to this person. If there is a chance, bring him into the Buddha clan.
To be at the top of the must-kill list of various clans. His talent and aptitude need no further explanation. If such a talent can be brought into the Buddha clan, he might become an ancient Buddha in the future. A Buddha said,
This matter might be difficult. As far as I know, he has already entered the sight of the high-level human clan. Several attempts by various clans to kill him have been thwarted.
The ancient Buddha said in a deep voice,
Do your best, but do not force it. If it is not possible, it can only be said that the fate has not arrived. Some things are not because he does not want to, but because it is really difficult to do.
If Lin Moyu has indeed entered the sight of the high-level human clan, he cannot act rashly. If something goes wrong, it might provoke retaliation from the strong men of the other side. Lin Moyu woke up from a curse, and his soul was strengthened a lot. The purple light in his soul became more intense, already starting to spread to his limbs. At this time, the number of pollen he controlled had reached 20 grains. After a few more times, the purple light would occupy all areas except his head. When his head is also occupied by the purple light, his soul will be completely transformed into a purple jade soul, reaching the 5th grade. The 5th grade soul is the mark of the other side. Of course, the quality of the soul is the quality of the soul, and the realm is the realm. Reaching the 5th grade soul only means that Lin Moyu has cleared a major obstacle to stepping into the other side. When he smoothly reaches the 9th level of the god, he will no longer encounter bottlenecks and can step into the other side relatively smoothly. Trigger the curse again for training. As time passed day by day, the curses triggered by Lin Moyu became stronger and stronger. Each time, he touched 30 grains of pollen simultaneously, reaching the containment limit of the golden nail. The purple light in his soul had already occupied all areas except his head, just one step away from the 5th grade purple jade soul. In fact, 3 days ago, Lin Moyu had already reached this level. At that time, he could touch 26 grains of pollen at once. When he found that his soul was no longer progressing, he started touching 28 grains of pollen, but the result was the same. Then he used the golden nail to increase the pollen to 30 grains. The pressure did increase, and he could feel his will becoming more solid and less affected. But the purple light remained the same, not spreading to his head. The soul had stagnated. Lin Moyu felt that he had encountered some bottleneck. The 5th grade soul is not so easy to achieve. Even with Zhu Qiwu's talent, he was stuck at this step for thousands of years. Many gods could not break through and eventually died of old age in the god realm. Once this step is taken, it is another world. Like the difference between the god level above and below in the small world, it is a completely different world.
It seems that seeking stability is not enough. I need to seek change. Using quantitative change to trigger qualitative change?
Lin Moyu put away the golden bowl, which was now useless. Looking at the pollen all over the ground, the Buddha Lich appeared beside him. Using the true sight technique, Lin Moyu wanted to see his future. He used his thoughts as a guide, stirred the law of fate, and glimpsed some fragments of the future. In the picture, he gave up controlling the golden bowl and instantly attracted hundreds of pollen grains to fall on him. A strong curse descended, and he fell into a daze again. Pollen flew in one after another, and the curse continued. Because there was too much pollen and the curse was too strong, he could not resist with his own strength and had to use state immunity. With the help of state immunity, he finally broke free from the curse after great effort. The picture ended here. In the last scene of the picture, Lin Moyu saw his own eyes. In the future, his eyes did not show any excitement, but rather some disappointment. There was no clear answer, but the eyes had already explained everything. From the eyes, Lin Moyu judged that the method he thought of did not succeed. Attracting a large amount of pollen at once did not trigger a qualitative change from a quantitative change.
Did it still fail? It seems this method is not feasible.
Lin Moyu muttered to himself. After pondering for a while, he thought of another possibility. His gaze fell on the flower 10,000 meters away, and he used the true sight technique again. This time he changed his idea, looking for a new possibility. The law of fate was stirred again, transmitting the secrets of the future to Lin Moyu. In this thought, Lin Moyu skipped the pollen and directly touched the huge flower 10,000 meters away. He made a negligible attack on the flower, with only the power of the 3rd level of the God King. Given the level of existence of the flower in its lifetime, the mere 3rd level of the God King was not even a scratch. Even though it was dead, it was still nothing. The slight attack attracted the flower's counterattack. In the picture, the flower glowed all over, and a blue mental curse fell on him. This curse was obviously stronger than the curse triggered by the pollen, and Lin Moyu fell into a daze in an instant. Then, in less than a second, his body exploded. 1456 1456. Chapter 1456. The Infinite Uses of True Sight. The future self exploded. It was a suicide. Lin Moyu knew that his idea had failed again. Seeing his future self explode, he couldn't help but feel a bit apprehensive. Actively attacking the flower to trigger its curse was an unfeasible idea. The flower was a powerful existence in the Tulu clan. Even though it was dead and had experienced countless years, its power still remained. It had set a curse on itself, and both the pollen and the flower itself were triggers for the curse. The pollen was manageable, and Lin Moyu could endure it. However, the curse from the flower itself was enough to kill him. He didn't even know how many times he would be killed. After self-destruction, his talent would activate, granting him rebirth, but the curse's power might still persist. Even if the curse was gone, his will and soul might suffer severe damage. These possibilities made him wary and unwilling to take the risk. Lin Moyu felt a sense of crisis at every step in this curse-laden world, where a single misstep could lead to death. He fell into deep thought again, reviewing everything that had happened, trying to understand it all. After considering the causes and effects, he gradually thought of some possibilities. Using pollen was definitely not an option. Quantitative change could not lead to qualitative change. To further evolve his soul, he needed a transformation. Simply increasing the curse's power was useless. A higher level was required. It's like 100 gods working together. Although powerful, they still couldn't compare to a half step beyond. Increasing the quantity indeed increases power, but it cannot elevate the level. Pollen remains at the level of pollen, not reaching the other side. No matter how much there is, it never reaches the other side. However, to truly transform his soul, he needed a curse from the other side. Moreover, the curse's power couldn't be too strong. It needed to be just right to reach the other side. If it was too strong, he couldn't withstand it, either using state immunity, greatly reducing the effect, or dying on the spot, ending in failure. Lin Moyu had a mature idea, but whether it was feasible was still uncertain. If it were someone else, they would have to experiment, and if the experiment failed, they would pay a huge price. But Lin Moyu had another way. The existence of the Buddha Lich allowed him to communicate with his future self through his thoughts, checking a possibility. Although not entirely accurate, it was enough to see some clues. Lin Moyu recalled the flower bud he had seen before, an unopened flower bud, which was a powerful existence at the other side. At that time, he triggered its curse and was almost killed. It was the best target for his idea. He simulated triggering the flower bud's curse in his thoughts, then used this thought to perform true sight. He hypothesized encountering a flower bud he had seen before, using resurrection of the dead to revive it, letting it curse him. Lin Moyu, relying on his memory, truly created something out of nothing. True sight was silently used, quickly receiving feedback. The law of fate actually acknowledged Lin Moyu's operation, returning the corresponding information. In the envisioned future, he encountered an unopened flower bud again. In the undying flames, the flower bud was revived, its soul reassembled. Then it resisted the control of resurrection of the dead, while cursing Lin Moyu, daring to desecrate it. Lin Moyu fell into a daze under the curse, but did not explode. The flower bud's curse was much weaker than the flower's curse. It was also weaker than the curse of the strange tree. Lin Moyu did not use state immunity to resist the curse, but relied on his own will and strength to fight the curse's erosion. If it were before, he would never have been able to do it. But after repeated curse training, both his will and soul had grown significantly stronger. A few seconds later, his eyes regained clarity, successfully resisting the curse. His eyes also showed excitement. The picture shattered again and true sight ended. Lin Moyu clenched his fists, with a bit of excitement.
It really works.
His idea came true, it really worked. The flower bud's curse, although reaching the other side level, couldn't truly kill him. The level changed, triggering the purple light in his soul, further enhancing his soul. From the final look in the picture, Lin Moyu had already seen the answer.
Not bad, not bad.
Lin Moyu deeply appreciated the magic of true sight, not only avoiding danger but also finding a path for his cultivation. He somewhat understood the true meaning of true sight. Peering into the truth, whether it's the truth of survival or the truth of seeking strength, can be evolved and changed through the future.
A magical technique. I really wonder what kind of genius created this technique.
True sight communicates with the law of fate, and the user doesn't need to understand the law of fate. The creator must have mastered the law of fate to an extremely deep level, otherwise, it would be impossible to create such a magical technique. $//LDOTS/LDOTS/LDOTS/LDOTS seeking flowers 0. Those who can create secret techniques based on laws are more admirable than those who simply master the laws. Since ancient times, such people have been rare. Many can only master some techniques they awaken, unable to create secret techniques for others to learn. Most people know the how but not the why. They can perfectly utilize the laws but don't know how to make the laws usable for others. Since True Sight has successfully simulated, the next step is to find the flower bud. The Tulu world is vast and boundless. There can't be only one flower bud. Millions of skeleton god warriors had been released before, and the map in his mind had become extremely vast. Many basins had been discovered. Each basin was a hole leading to the great world. Thousands of basins formed a phalanx. Outside the phalanx were strange trees like small mountains. In the ancient war, the soldiers in the basins all died. Their bodies and souls perished. As generals, the strange trees also died, but their bodies were preserved, covered in curses. The map in his mind, besides many newly discovered basins and strange trees, also had small dots. These small dots were flower buds. The flower buds were discovered during Lin Moyu's curse training. Now they could be put to good use. Lin Moyu quickly ran towards the nearest flower bud.
I don't know what level the soldiers in the basins were. Probably not at the other side. At the other side level, even if dead, the body can be preserved, not eroded by time. And soldiers not at the other side, even if their bodies were preserved initially, were eventually eroded by time.
Lin Moyu had a new understanding of the other side. What is the other side? It's a whole new level. In the great world, the super god level distinguishes between ordinary people and cultivators. And the other side seems to distinguish between cultivators stepping into another level. A flower bud appeared in his sight. A meter-high flower bud, not yet blooming, still in its infancy, had already reached the other side. The Tulu clan is a terrifying race. They just met an even more terrifying opponent. Stopping in front of the flower bud, Lin Moyu did not act immediately. He summoned the Buddha Lich again using True Sight for a review. This time, it was no longer his imagination, but a real flower bud as a reference, making the result of True Sight more accurate. 1457, 1457. Chapter 1457, Risking Life for the 5th grade. With a real reference, the results obtained from True Sight were not much different from what he had imagined. Lin Moyu finally felt at ease. After all, it was a matter of life and death, and he had to be cautious. Once he was ready, he flicked a ball of undying flame from his fingertips, which landed on the flower bud. The bright red flower bud immediately burst into a massive 50-meter high pillar of fire, turning into a gray fireball. Lin Moyu was prepared, ready to face the curse at any moment. The flower bud's soul reassembled, regaining consciousness. Its aura grew stronger and stronger, reaching the other shore realm. As a native creature of the Tural world, the curse in the sky did not attack it. Just as the future vision had shown, resurrection of the dead could not control a being at the other shore realm. The flower bud began to resist the spell, fighting for control. At the same time, it cast a curse on its originator. The bright red flower bud released a blue mental curse. In an instant, various negative emotions surged into Lin Moyu's mind. His eyes became vacant, the world turned gray, and he lost all hope for the future.
I should die. Living is meaningless. I should die. No, you must live. You have to live.
Suicidal thoughts kept rising, but were forcibly suppressed by his strong will. Waves of pessimism came one after another, and Lin Moyu's will did the same, repeatedly suppressing and erasing them. The struggle was intense, with both sides fighting for dominance. In the end, Lin Moyu gained the upper hand. The curse's power was not infinite and finally exhausted after a few seconds. At this moment, the struggle between the flower bud and resurrection of the dead also reached its final stage. Resurrection of the dead could not control it, so it chose to destroy it. The flower bud exploded, turning into powder and disappearing without a trace, leaving a huge pit in the ground. Lin Moyu didn't care about its death. Instead, he checked the state of his soul. Seeing it, he felt joy. His stagnant soul had indeed grown stronger. The purple light extended from his neck towards his head.
At this rate, About 20 more times, and my soul will transform into a 5th-grade purple jade soul.
He began searching for flower buds, resurrecting them repeatedly to trigger the curse. Watching his soul gradually transform into a 5th-grade purple jade soul, Lin Moyu was full of motivation. A few days later, his entire soul was filled with purple light. However, his soul had not yet transformed. It was still at the peak of the 4th grade. This was the true peak of the 4th grade, just a hair's breadth away from the 5th grade. But this tiny bit was incredibly difficult to overcome. The flower bud's curse training had also reached its limit and could no longer help Lin Moyu complete the transformation. Lin Moyu knew he needed a stronger curse. The flower bud was in its juvenile form, while the fully bloomed flower was its mature form. The fully bloomed flower was absolutely untouchable. Touching it would mean certain death. Lin Moyu immediately set his sights on the strange tree. In his understanding, among beings at the other shore realm, the flower bud was the weakest, the strange tree was slightly stronger, and the fully bloomed flower was the strongest. Since the flower bud was useless and the fully bloomed flower was untouchable, only the strange tree remained. Taking a deep breath, Lin Moyu arrived in front of the strange tree and first used true sight, obtaining a positive result. The future vision showed a thrilling but successful outcome, with Lin Moyu seeing himself succeed. However, at the end of the vision, Lin Moyu saw a hint of panic deep in his own eyes. Panic? Lin Moyu was puzzled. Why would there be panic? Could something unexpected have happened? He used true sight again and saw the exact same vision. This time, Lin Moyu looked very carefully and confirmed that the panic in his eyes was real. He knew his own eyes better than anyone. In this world, if there was anything unpredictable, it could only be one thing. Lin Moyu looked up at the sky, the dim sky, the thick clouds, and the red curse hidden behind the clouds. The red curse behind the clouds was the greatest danger in this world. Lin Moyu muttered to himself,
"It should be that the transformation of my soul triggered the curse's attack. It not only doesn't allow the appearance of realms above the God Sovereign, but also doesn't allow the appearance of 5th-grade souls. If that's the case..."
Lin Moyu thought of a solution. He wanted to use true sight to see if his solution could avert the crisis. But the result disappointed him. True sight did not provide a clear answer. The crisis he faced would only be triggered under certain conditions. The condition was the transformation of his soul from a 4th-grade jade soul to a 5th-grade purple jade soul. But this condition also had a prerequisite. He had to withstand the strange tree's curse. The future vision was too short to skip the strange tree's curse and see what happened afterward.
It seems true sight is not omnipotent. It can only predict one step, not 2 or 3 steps ahead. My idea should be correct. Either I leave now and give up the transformation of my soul, or I must face this danger. But giving up the transformation of my soul is something I can't accept. The curse above cannot be stopped. I can only find a way to avoid it. But how can I avoid it?
Lin Moyu pondered and soon thought of a solution. This solution seemed feasible but couldn't be verified.
Will it work? What if I'm wrong? Then I'll face death. Should I gamble or not?
In his hesitation, he found his answer. Lin Moyu decided to take the risk. He chose to gamble. The temptation of a 5th-grade soul was too great, worth risking his life for. Once he made up his mind, Lin Moyu no longer hesitated. After making preparations, he flicked out the undying flame. Stellar-level spell, Resurrection of the Dead. The flame enveloped the strange tree, setting the entire mountain ablaze, spreading for 10,000 meters. The strange tree's soul reassembled. Its consciousness revived. It was clearly stronger than the flower bud. Even before its consciousness fully revived, it began to struggle against resurrection of the dead. At the same time, like the flower bud, it targeted Lin Moyu, the originator.
Die.
Lin Moyu seemed to hear a roar. The roar carried boundless killing intent, and a red light appeared above his head. The curse descended, forming a blood-red axe in his soul world, directly striking the crystal barrier. Lin Moyu lost the ability to think, his eyes vacant. All his thoughts focused on his soul. Although there were no pessimistic emotions, the danger he faced this time was far greater than before. Fortunately, Lin Moyu was much stronger than before. With a strong soul, the crystal barrier was also strong. The giant axe struck the crystal barrier, causing the soul world to shake violently, but the crystal barrier did not break. Dealing with soul attack curses is different from dealing with mental curses. Mental curses require willpower to resist, while soul attack curses require the soul to fight back. The talent tree extended wildly, whipping the giant axe. The 9-colored dragon soul crystal roared, also transforming into a phantom to attack the giant axe. The undead legion appeared in the soul, fearlessly charging at the giant axe. Lin Moyu, holding the scourge staff, cast the time curse on the giant axe, while charging out of the soul world to engage the giant axe in fierce battle. Lin Moyu, like a general, led his soul in a life and death struggle. 1458 Chapter 1458. Such things are intolerable. The battle in the soul world was extremely intense. Lin Moyu fought to the death, giving his soul immense pressure, which also became the driving force for his soul's advancement. The purple light in his soul grew stronger and began to transform. Outside, the struggle between resurrection of the dead and the strange tree also reached its climax. Resurrection of the dead couldn't control the strange tree and began to destroy it. The strange tree, having been revived with great difficulty, refused to die easily and continued to resist. Unfortunately, it was already a dead tree. It could resist control but couldn't resist destruction. In the end, it collapsed and exploded. At the same time, Lin Moyu exhausted the curse's power, and his soul began to transform. The soul world erupted with brilliant purple light, which spread to the outside, emanating from every inch of his skin. A strange aura rose from his soul. Lin Moyu's consciousness returned, but he hadn't fully regained control of his body. The clouds in the sky changed, and red light began to dominate the land, bringing forth a powerful pressure. A skeleton god general transformed into a stream of light, instantly appearing in front of Lin Moyu, holding him and rushing into the pit left by the strange tree's death. The entire process happened in a flash, taking less than 0.1 seconds. Lin Moyu hadn't regained control of his body, but the skeleton god general held him and frantically charged into the vortex. They plunged into the vortex, accelerating continuously. Countless fragments in the vortex rained down on Lin Moyu and the skeleton god general, but Lin Moyu had no time to care. His attention was focused on the vortex, looking through it at the Tural world, now shrouded in red. At this moment, he could do nothing but pray. He knew that when the curse descended, he would be doomed, so he had to escape the Tural world before the curse arrived. There was only one way to escape: the Great Vortex. The Great Vortex could take him away. As long as he returned to the Great World, the curse in the Tural world couldn't kill him. He was gambling that his escape speed was faster than the curse. The vortex continued to spin, taking him towards the Great World. The red light in his vision appeared, and the curse's power drilled through the vortex, rushing towards him. The vortex's rotation seemed to slow down under the curse's influence. Despair welled up in Lin Moyu's heart. He kept ordering the skeleton god general to speed up, and it really did. Lin Moyu realized he was starting to leave the Tural world, and the laws of the Great World were beginning to take effect. The light speed lich's ability began to recover. The speed increased, and the aura of the Great World grew stronger. But the red light rapidly approached, almost catching up. Lin Moyu regained control of his body at this moment. He put away the skeleton god general and took out a jade token, crushing it directly. His body disappeared like a bubble, and the red curse passed through his body, reaching the end of the vortex, where it was blocked by an invisible barrier and finally disappeared. The Tural world returned to darkness, and the red light hid behind the clouds again. In Area 9 to 58, outside the Great Vortex, nearly 10 million kilometers away, Lin Moyu suddenly appeared with a slight spatial distortion. His face was pale, and his eyes were filled with the joy and relief of surviving a disaster. He let out a long breath.
Finally escaped. Fortunately, I left a teleportation marker here earlier. It's always good to be prepared. When it's useless, but when it's useful, it can save your life.
As the vortex was about to reach the exit and the curse was about to descend, Lin Moyu activated the teleportation talisman the moment he regained control of his body. The talisman took him out of the vortex and back to the Great World. The curse couldn't follow, as the power of the Tural World couldn't interfere with the Great World, just as the power of the Great World couldn't interfere with the Tural World. The vortex was the point of fusion between the two worlds, allowing mutual penetration.
You brat, you finally made it out.
A familiar voice sounded in his ear, with a hint of concern. Lin Moyu saw Zhu Qiwu, who was smiling at him with a look that said,
You actually survived.
Lin Moyu was in a great mood.
Senior, why are you here? Just came to see if you're dead.
Before he could finish, Zhu Qiwu's eyes suddenly widened. At this moment, Lin Moyu's body emitted purple light, and his aura grew stronger. His soul's transformation officially began, changing from a 4th grade Jade Soul to a 5th grade Purple Jade Soul. The difference of 1 grade, 1 word was a world apart. Once this step was taken, the future was boundless. If not, he would eventually become a skeleton under the passage of time. Lin Moyu's mind was fully immersed in the changes brought by his soul's transformation. It wasn't just the transformation of the soul itself, but also the entire soul world. The soul world expanded rapidly, becoming 100 times larger. The talent tree, which once filled the soul world, now seemed small and no longer covered the sky. The soul body sat under the talent tree, a small dot, but the entire soul world centered around this dot, controlled by it. The spell stars rose to the top of the soul world, shining as before, with infinite fusion still reigning supreme, connecting all spells with its chaotic laws, making them a unified whole. The soul world expanded 100-fold, and the crystal barrier transformed into a purple jade barrier, becoming thicker and more solid. The transformation from 4th grade to 5th grade was not just a change in scale but a fundamental change. In the soul world, a Law Star River suddenly appeared. The gray-white Law Star River surged with the undying law, and invisible waves flowed from it like waterfalls, falling on the soul body. The soul body was baptized by the undying law, becoming pure and strong. The Law Star River's power washed away many impurities from the soul, including other laws. Lin Moyu's previously mastered rudimentary slaughter law and thunder law were completely cleansed, leaving no trace. The soul became entirely pure. Seeing this, Lin Moyu couldn't help but laugh.
So this can happen too. This is the baptism of the Lost Star River? So domineering. Is it my undying law that's domineering, or are all Lost Star River baptisms like this? By the way, I'm only at the 3rd stage of the God King realm, and my soul is being baptized by the Lost Star River. Isn't this too bizarre? Why do I feel like my soul can already enter the Lost Star River?
Thoughts emerged one after another, and even Lin Moyu, the person involved, found it hard to believe these changes. As for Zhu Qiwu, he was even more shocked, his mouth agape, almost dropping his jaw. His avatar almost exploded.
How is this possible? How can he reach the 5th grade Purple Jade Soul? A 5th grade Purple Jade Soul at the God King realm? What kind of joke is this? Am I in an illusion? This can't be real.
He hadn't fully transformed into a 5th grade Purple Jade Soul yet, but Lin Moyu had already surpassed him. Such things are intolerable. 1459, 1459. Chapter 1459. He cultivated until he became a dog. Zhu Qiwu was no longer witnessing the growth of a genius. This genius had already surpassed him without him realizing it, running ahead of him and waving from the other shore. Zhu Qiwu let out a long sigh.
When the war god rose back then, those of the same generation must have felt very desperate. Not just his peers, even his elders might have felt desperate.
Zhu Qiwu looked at Lin Moyu's transforming soul and thought of the peerless Xiao Zhantian. Back then, Xiao Zhantian was like Lin Moyu, rising like a comet and rapidly growing to an unmatched level. He crushed an entire era, surpassing even his elders one by one. One could imagine the mixed feelings of those people from that era, similar to Zhu Qiwu's current feelings. Zhu Qiwu was a prodigy from a young age, about to step into the other shore, but now his heart felt like he had cultivated until he became a dog.
You brat, how did you manage to do this? I'll ask you clearly later. If you dare not tell me, I'll skin you alive.
Zhu Qiwu was furious. A junior he had high hopes for had suddenly surpassed him, and the feeling of frustration was indescribable. Lin Moyu's body was enveloped in purple, exuding a noble aura. He seemed to be transcending this world and reaching another level. Strands of killing intent flew out from his body and dissipated into the void. Lin Moyu's aura changed, becoming gentler, as if he had lost some sharpness. Then, lightning bolts flew out from within him, also disappearing into the void. Lin Moyu's aura became even gentler, like a beautiful jade, a gentle and refined jade gentleman. Zhu Qiwu's pupils constricted again.
The baptism of the Lost Star River. The brat received the baptism of the Lost Star River prematurely. There are no more obstacles to stepping into the God's sovereign realm. Others spend years polishing themselves to perfect their laws, using laws as their clothing, and leaping their souls into the Lost Star River. But this brat abandoned the laws and directly used the strength of his soul to receive the baptism of the Lost Star River. The two seem similar but are vastly different. The brat's baptism is more thorough, and his soul will become cleaner and purer. If this gets out, it will make a lot of people jealous. Even the Buddha kingdoms can't compare to this.
Zhu Qiwu could naturally see the killing intent and lightning that left Lin Moyu's body were the laws of slaughter and thunder. Under the baptism of the undying Law Star River, these irrelevant laws were expelled, and Lin Moyu's soul and body became pure. Only the undying law remained within him. The purple light gradually faded and returned to his body, back into the soul world. The Law Star River in the soul world also gradually disappeared, and the entire world returned to calmness. The transformation ended, and Lin Moyu slowly opened his eyes, seeing the calm Zhu Qiwu. Zhu Qiwu had already regained his composure, maintaining the aura of a senior, pretending to be calm.
Not bad. It seems you gained a lot this time.
Lin Moyu nodded.
Indeed, I gained quite a bit.
Zhu Qiwu took out his vehicle.
Come inside and explain in detail.
The small warship sailed silently in the void. Inside the warship, on the small tea table familiar to Lin Moyu, he brewed tea for Zhu Qiwu, a scene reminiscent of the past. In Lin Moyu's memory, when he was in the small world, he had brewed tea like this for his teachers. Zhu Qiwu gave him the same feeling. This senior was truly very good to him. Zhu Qiwu accepted the tea handed to him by Lin Moyu. His eyes slightly narrowed.
Speak.
Lin Moyu took out 2 recording stones and activated one, projecting the images inside. The image showed a stele with inscriptions in the primordial ancient script. Most of the primordial ancient script had been erased, leaving only a few words. Lin Moyu explained.
This is the stele I found in the Tura world. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring it back, so I could only record it.
Zhu Qiwu clearly recognized the primordial ancient script and could read the words on it.
Tural, how do you know it's the Tura world and not the Tural tribe?
Lin Moyu explained.
You should know my technique. I can revive the dead in a short time. I found a corpse and learned it from him.
Zhu Qiwu's eyes lit up.
There were corpses inside.
Lin Moyu nodded.
Quite a few.
The next moment, Zhu Qiwu seemed to realize something.
Corpses that remained intact for billions of years must have been from the other shore when they were alive.
Lin Moyu made an affirmative sound.
It should be. Although my technique could revive them, I couldn't control them, and I almost died inside.
Zhu Qiwu became even more curious.
Don't hold back. Explain everything at once.
Then Lin Moyu roughly explained the situation in the Tural world. Zhu Qiwu didn't say a word, like a student listening attentively to a teacher's lecture. Through Lin Moyu's description, Zhu Qiwu finally gained a new understanding of the Tural world.
So you used the curses inside to temper your soul, forcibly pushing your soul to become a 5th-grade purple jade soul.
Lin Moyu made an affirmative sound.
More or less, otherwise my soul couldn't have progressed so quickly. It's indeed a good method, but unfortunately it can't be replicated.
Zhu Qiwu knew Lin Moyu's special nature, which others couldn't replicate. Lin Moyu's soul was already strong enough, having reached the peak of the 4th grade, a jade soul turning purple. In other words, Lin Moyu had already qualified for his soul to transform. Add to that Lin Moyu's strong will and the help of true sight, and the current situation was created. If others went in, a single curse might be the end for them. But even so, Lin Moyu had a close brush with death. Zhu Qiwu asked again.
You said the Tura world doesn't allow the existence of realms above the God's sovereign?
Lin Moyu opened the second recording stone at this point. The recording stone projected new images, showing the golden light little Buddha and the soul devourer little God sovereign. Zhu Qiwu frowned.
The Buddhist clan and the demon clan.
The Buddhist clan and the demon clan coming together made Zhu Qiwu wary. The images played out Lin Moyu deliberately provoking the Buddhist clan, forcing them to act against him. Then he decisively and fiercely killed the soul devourer little God sovereign, while the golden light little Buddha fled severely injured. Finally, the golden light little Buddha achieved instant enlightenment, only to be met with a terrifying curse. The red curse hidden behind the clouds, even in the recording stone, was terrifying enough to make one's heart tremble.
Such a powerful curse.
Zhu Qiwu analyzed from the images that if it were him, he might not have been able to withstand the curse's attack. Lin Moyu said,
Indeed, it was powerful enough to instantly kill me. Not only does it not allow the existence of realms above the God sovereign, but it also doesn't allow the existence of 5th-grade souls. I almost died in there. Fortunately, I was lucky enough to escape.
Lin Moyu didn't specifically explain how he escaped, but Zhu Qiwu could imagine that the entire process must have been very dangerous. Zhu Qiwu closed his eyes in contemplation for a moment, roughly understanding the reason.
I guess not allowing realms above the God sovereign is to protect those corpses. Perhaps they are still waiting for their master to be reborn one day. But who would have thought you would encounter such a freak, using their corpses as tools?
Lin Moyu didn't respond to Zhu Qiwu's words.
Junior has a few questions and hopes the senior can provide guidance.
1460. Chapter 1460. The Other Extreme of True Sight. After obtaining a large amount of information from Lin Moyu's mouth, as an exchange, Zhu Qiwu also entered a state of answering any questions. Of course, Lin Moyu understood that this question and answer session also had limitations on what could and could not be said, and Zhu Qiwu was very clear about this as well. According to Zhu Qiwu's words, even though Lin Moyu's soul had already reached the 5th grade, as long as he didn't die, he was almost destined to step into the other shore in the future. However, he had not yet reached the other shore, so the rules were still the rules and could not be broken. The questions Lin Moyu asked were all about cultivation, and Zhu Qiwu answered them one by one. First, he explained why the Law Star River baptism had expelled the laws of slaughter and thunder, leaving no trace of these laws in Lin Moyu's body. After cultivating and comprehending laws, most laws would exist in the physical body, with only a small portion existing in the soul. When needed, one only had to think, and they could use the laws. But now, whether in his soul or physical body, only the undying law remained for Lin Moyu. Of course, Lin Moyu had a foundation. If he wanted to, he could regain these two laws in an extremely short time and restore them to their original level. However, Zhu Qiwu told Lin Moyu not to do so. From the God King realm to the minor God Sovereign realm, and finally ascending to the God Sovereign realm, the most difficult part was two words: balance. There are many ways to achieve balance, and the simplest and most common way is to maintain purity. This purity refers to the purity of the physical body and soul, or in other words, the purity of laws. Once pure, it is naturally balanced. Retaining only one law makes it relatively easier to ascend. There is another way, where many people comprehend two laws simultaneously. In this case, they need to elevate both laws to the same level, maintaining a balance between the two laws. As long as the balance is maintained perfectly enough, they can also ascend. The advantage is that after ascending, they can bathe in two law star rivers, receiving two baptisms, making their strength slightly stronger. The disadvantage is that maintaining a perfect balance between two laws is very difficult. Moreover, these two laws must be from the same tier. Otherwise, it is impossible to maintain a perfect balance. This is the significance of dividing laws into tiers. Different tiers and different levels are essentially different. Lin Moyu's Undying Law is a first-tier law, so no matter how he cultivates and comprehends the laws of slaughter and thunder, he cannot maintain a balance with the Undying Law. If he wants to ascend to the God-sovereign realm, he can only choose to expel the two laws, allowing his soul and body to remain pure. This is why Zhu Qiwu told Lin Moyu not to comprehend other laws before becoming a God-sovereign, because it would be very difficult to find another first-tier law that could match the Undying Law. This situation can only be resolved after Lin Moyu achieves the God-sovereign realm. As for how to resolve it, Zhu Qiwu did not say. He only told Lin Moyu that after becoming a God-sovereign, he would naturally understand. Lin Moyu thought this method would not be too simple. He had encountered many God-sovereigns before and had even killed several of them. But the God-sovereigns he had seen only possessed one aspect of a law. Does this mean God-sovereigns cannot comprehend other laws? This is almost impossible. There must be a deeper reason behind this. After a long journey, the warship returned to Fortress Number 9. Before leaving, Zhu Qiwu told Lin Moyu that the rewards for this task would be directly issued by the Human Emperor Network after he reported it. Lin Moyu only needed to wait at Fortress Number 1, and it wouldn't take too long. From Zhu Qiwu's tone, the rewards wouldn't be too bad. Information from the ancient era was too important, and the higher-ups of various races needed it. Lin Moyu's discovery this time was of great significance. With the appearance of a ferocious demon, Lin Moyu took the teleportation array and returned to Fortress Number 1. Spanning tens of thousands of light years, with several transfers, it was another long teleportation journey. Lin Moyu was clear that his second chain task had finally been completed. In front of the Great Vortex in Area 9-58, a 24-petal golden lotus crossed the vast distance and flew over. Golden Buddha light illuminated the void, and a Buddha sat solemnly on the lotus, adorned with exquisite features. The golden lotus stopped in front of the Great Vortex, and the Buddha slowly opened his eyes, gazing at the Great Vortex. Golden light shot out from his eyes, as if trying to part the clouds and see the world behind the Great Vortex. But it was destined to be fruitless, with no gains. However, he did not give up. A third eye suddenly opened on his forehead. The third eye emitted an even stronger golden light, as if it could see through all illusions and perceive the truth. If Lin Moyu were here, he would see that the third eye contained the true sight technique. However, the true sight technique used by the three-eyed Buddha was grand and imposing, completely different from Lin Moyu's Buddhist shaman true sight, as if they were two extremes. Not only were their dynamics completely opposite, but their effects were also completely different. The golden light from the third eye enveloped the Great Vortex, reflecting many scenes from within. These were not scenes of the future but scenes of the past. The scenes played like a slideshow, rapidly flashing by before finally freezing. The first scene to appear was Lin Moyu. The three-eyed Buddha did not recognize Lin Moyu. He only knew that a human had entered. This was a certain area of the Vermilion Bird battlefield, where many humans were active, so one or two people entering was normal. The scene continued to fast forward, eventually freezing again. The golden light little Buddha appeared in the scene, followed by the soul devourer little God sovereign. The two seemed to exchange a few words before entering the vortex together. Afterward, the demon warship that had brought the soul devourer little God sovereign turned and left, without lingering.
Amitabha Buddha, according to the demons, this is the last place the golden light Buddha appeared. The golden light Buddha must have entered and perished inside. The soul devourer little god sovereign also did not come out. It seems he also perished inside. Could it be that the two encountered something inside, or had some conflict, or was it related to the human who entered first? But that human was only at the third stage of the God-King realm, far weaker than the golden light Buddha, so it shouldn't be him. This place seems rather strange, and there are records in our clan.
The three-eyed Buddha carefully pondered, searching through the vast knowledge accumulated over his thousands of years of life for information about this area. Unfortunately, he could not find any. The great world was vast, with too many strange areas. The Buddhist clan rarely walked in the world, and although they collected information, their information was not comprehensive. The scenes presented by the third eye began to fast forward again. The golden light little Buddha and the soul devourer little god sovereign did not appear again. Until the end, Lin Moyu reappeared in the scene. Lin Moyu appeared at the edge of the scene, tens of millions of kilometers away. The moment Lin Moyu appeared, the three-eyed Buddha's third eye suddenly constricted. In the scene, Lin Moyu was enveloped in Buddha light.
How could a human be enveloped in Buddha light? This is the residual Buddha light from prolonged use of Buddhist treasures. He has Buddhist treasures in his hands. Buddhist treasures rarely flow out. If he killed the golden light Buddha and obtained his Buddhist treasures, then it would be normal.
The three-eyed Buddha quickly made a judgment in his heart. At this moment, the scene changed again, and an ordinary-looking middle-aged man appeared before Lin Moyu. With his appearance, the third eye suddenly closed. The three-eyed Buddha let out a muffled groan, and golden blood flowed out of the third eye.
It's actually a human from the other shore realm. How could a being from the other shore realm appear here? What is the identity of this human who is only at the third stage of the God-King realm?
Towering waves surged in the three-eyed Buddha's heart, and a look of panic appeared on his previously calm face. He did not dare linger here any longer and rode the golden lotus, transforming into a beam of light and leaving. 1461, 1461. Chapter 1461. Antares is truly at the other shore. Just as Lin Moyu returned to Fortress Number 1, he suddenly felt a strange sensation, as if someone was spying on him. This feeling came out of nowhere, inexplicably arising and being sensed by his soul. The spying seemed to come from a distant place, as if it broke through the limitations of space and time and descended directly upon him. Unable to locate the source of the spying, he felt extremely uneasy. With the appearance of Chihua, Lin Moyu's expression turned strange, making the already fierce-looking Chihua appear even more menacing. As he left the teleportation array, many people instinctively took half a step back, avoiding him. Lin Moyu felt helpless about this. Over the past few days, the number of people in Fortress No. 1 had decreased significantly. However, it was still more than when he first arrived on the battlefield. If he dared to restore his original appearance, he would definitely attract a crowd again. After thinking it over, he decided it was better to parade around with Chihua's appearance. Zhu Qiwu had already reported the task for him, so he didn't need to go to the task center. He just had to wait for the information from the Human Emperor Network. By then, the second chain task would be considered complete. At this moment, there was still about a year and a half left until the start of the 4-star region competition. The remaining time was relatively free, and he could do whatever he wanted. Lin Moyu went straight to the living area and entered a tavern. Having narrowly escaped death this time, he needed to relax and let his tense mind unwind. Moreover, successfully advancing to a 5th grade soul was worth celebrating. Lin Moyu observed the comings and goings of cultivators and chose a seat by the window, where he could see the outside scenery. No one sat around him. People who approached, upon seeing Lin Moyu's appearance, quickly walked away and chose other seats. This was fine, as it gave him some peace and quiet. Lin Moyu poured himself a glass of wine, but his attention was focused on his soul world. The soul body sat at the center of the world, the purple jade soul exuding a powerful aura. He was the king of this world, the ruler of this world. In the hands of the soul body, he held a special coffin, the coffin of slumber. Lin Moyu had not crafted many items in his life, but the one he put the most effort into was the coffin of slumber. Inside the coffin of slumber, his 4 lovers lay in slumber. The coffin of slumber had paused their lives, waiting for Lin Moyu to restart their lives. The soul gently caressed the coffin of slumber.
We will meet again soon.
After downing a strong drink, his thoughts returned to the present. With a slight movement of his soul, the world around him became noisy again. Lin Moyu's soul quality was so high that its sensitivity had surpassed that of a god sovereign. If he wished, he could perceive all the movements within a large area inside and outside the tavern. Even if someone used soul transmission to speak, Lin Moyu could intercept the content if he wanted to. Lin Moyu began to formally examine his changes. The transformation from a 4th grade soul to a 5th grade soul was a significant metamorphosis. When his soul power surged, thin lines appeared in the space around him. These thin lines had different colors, intertwining and entangling with each other, yet remaining independent. These were the lines of laws. After reaching a 5th grade purple jade soul, Lin Moyu could clearly sense the real state of the laws. He could see the laws, feel their pulsations, and more easily comprehend them. From now on, laws were no longer an elusive existence. Most laws had already manifested before his eyes. He could easily master a certain law in a short time. Although he couldn't master them deeply, using them superficially was not a problem. Lin Moyu finally understood why Antares could master so many laws back then. Because Antares was at the other shore realm, Antares could also see the laws, making mastery effortless. Now his soul had reached the same level. He retracted his soul power, and the lines of laws disappeared from his sight. Now was not the time to comprehend laws, and Lin Moyu was not interested in these low-level laws. Lin Moyu had his own plans and goals. After reaching the God-sovereign realm, he wanted to comprehend the laws of space and time, and if possible, add the law of chaos. He sought quality over quantity in laws and aimed to maintain balance. Lin Moyu originally comprehended 1st-tier laws. If he went to comprehend 2nd-tier or even 3rd-tier laws, it would disrupt the balance. For Lin Moyu, it would be harmful rather than beneficial. In his soul perception, Lin Moyu heard countless voices. As the time for the 4-star region competition approached, discussions about it increased. From the numerous conversations, Lin Moyu gathered a lot of information about the 4-star region competition. Combining this with the information from the Human Emperor Network, he gained a more intuitive understanding of the competition. A year before the official start of the competition, preliminary rounds would begin on various life star systems to determine the representatives. Star systems were divided into high, medium, and low tiers. High-tier star systems had 10 slots, medium tier had 6, and low tier had only 3. Regardless of the tier, the number of cultivators was enormous, involving millions. But the slots were pitifully few, so the competition would be extremely fierce. Especially in high-tier star systems, although they had more slots, the number of cultivators was also significantly higher, making the difficulty greater than in low-tier star systems. Some had thought of participating in the preliminaries in low-tier star systems to compete for slots in the 4-star region competition. After all, people from high-tier star systems were generally stronger than those from low-tier star systems. But those with such thoughts were eventually disqualified. The entire process was monitored by the Human Emperor Network, so one couldn't do whatever they wanted. Everyone had their own star system affiliation, and it was impossible to snatch slots from other star systems. Besides the slots for each star system, the domain lords had 10 special slots. These 10 special slots, along with the participants sent by the War God Hall, were called seed players. They didn't need to participate in the preliminaries and could directly enter the finals. However, these slots were even harder to obtain, with the decision entirely in the hands of the domain lords. As for the slots from the War God Hall, they were out of reach for outsiders. Lin Moyu knew that one of the 10 slots in Zhu Tian's hands was his. He didn't need to participate in any preliminaries and could directly enter the finals. Since coming to the Great World, Lin Moyu had always been active in the Vermilion Bird Star region and had never left it. His fourth-level authority also meant he couldn't see detailed information about other star regions. This four-star region competition was indeed an opportunity to learn about other star regions. The human race was a vast race with expansive star regions and countless populations. Not to mention, even the cultivation methods varied among them. For example, the power of faith, although one of the original powers of the human race, was best utilized in the Azure Dragon Star region. In the Vermilion Bird Star region where he was, people believed more in their own laws, using the power of faith only as an auxiliary. As for the White Tiger Star region and the Black Tortoise Star region, they were more mysterious, and Lin Moyu didn't know their specific details. He had only heard that the Black Tortoise Star region seemed to excel in creating puppets and various war machines. Most of the warships and many powerful treasures in the human race came from the Black Tortoise Star region. For specific information, he would have to wait until his authority reached level 5 to understand.
Level 5 authority should be soon.
A familiar notification sound rang in his ears as Lin Moyu raised his wine glass, a slight smile on his lips. The task rewards had arrived. 1,462.